Hello, everybody. Hello, hello, hello. Hi. Thank you all for being here. I see you all here. I'm going to need to adjust chat a little bit so that we can get all your contributions in here. I'm going to be adjusting audio a little. We have a complex audio setup today because I got a lot going on behind me right now. So we're gonna boost me by, we'll give me an extra decibel, and then we'll see how we do. And I'm gonna have to eat the mic a little bit, so just bear with me. Just tell me if the audio's off. Anyway, hi, hello, welcome. Ready for me to be in trouble again? Me too. While I am getting us set up, why don't we talk about the stream a little, or at least this essay. So this is the essay originally titled. I had very little attachment to the titles on this one. I'm usually kind of iffy at titles, and I think I was even worse than usual at them. I'll go look into my script. At the top of my scripts, I sometimes put in titled drafts. I had video games aren't movies. It's a little just a little thin, if you ask me. Video games should love themselves more. I'm into and probably more spiritually aligned. Any strong points to make delay ads? Yes. I'll try to remember that. And so I'm getting like Twitch's suggestion of like AI helpers to do this basic ass stuff. You're sure the comments were very normal? The comments had some opinions. I'll tell you that for free. I had video games are better than movies, ... or they can be. I was pretty into that one. And ultimately, the first time out, we landed on video games need to stop trying to be movies. I think it's too wordy, but it's where we landed, and it's not the point. Ultimately, what I wanted to accomplish with this essay was make a bit about the fact that I think there is this instinct inside of games that loses the magic of what games can do as an artistic medium, not just a storytelling medium, an artistic medium. There we go. We got some YouTube. And I simply just thought that, it's one of those things. I don't know if any other essayists have this. There we go. Now we got, we'll get Twitch over on this side and we'll get YouTube on this side. How's that sound? Hello. This is exactly the same as the FF7 Rebirth essay, insofar as this is a piece motivated by my love for something, which is currently being expressed by my frustration or my hurt with something. And it just unavoidably requires that approach. I wasn't trying to pick a fight, but I knew it would. That's a pretty good way to put it. I'm going to tell you, perhaps like problematically for the channel, I have yet to actually want to pick a fight. The opening card, if you can't process that the opening card's a joke, like, we can't help you. And so I recognize that I do that, but like I say, I'm honking my clown nose at things. And it was just me going, damn, I think people are going to be upset about this. Notably, I come down pretty hard on The Last of Us, which has for sure allowed I discussed this a little on another stream. It has allowed people to align me with some of the worst kind of people. And the reality is, we need to be able to criticize your $250 million mainstream video game project with an HBO adaptation without being manipulative grifters. If you believe I've failed at that, I'm totally open to that criticism. But I am coming to a place of good faith and I put the words on screen that it's good. So we're definitely, I think, going to talk about my approach to that, where I may have fallen short, where I may have not. But I will simply tell you this in advance. Do I want to make an official statement about where I land on those kind of dudes? Yeah, probably. Why don't we do this? I'll start by saying that I was, and I've said this in a few places, I was this close to editing the essay to be a little bit less hostile towards Sony Computer Entertainment. And then Sony Computer Entertainment made some of the most anti-art, anti-consumer choices that any company has made over the last few weeks. Obviously, Xbox is doing everything they can to usurp them. And then I thought, you know what? Actually, I don't need to put my gloves back on for a major corporation. And I think that I assumed, and this is on me, I think that I assumed that people would be able to perceive that what I am not doing is going, this art that you really, really care about. This art that you really, really, really care about, it is bad and you should not care about it, which is really not what most any critique ultimately wants. And so much as this is a product made for corporate interests, but it is made by people who believe in it. And I'm just trying to talk one artist to another artist about where their motivation is coming from, that they've made something good. And I tell you this, if Last of Us wasn't at the top of so many literally best game ever made essays, it wouldn't appear in this essay at all. It wouldn't be here at all. But it is at the top of those. We all objectively know the way this game is talked about. I cite multiple sources in this, and for that reason, we're just going to approach it that way. If other people and other critics and gamers and communities and officials are going to go, this is the best game ever made, then we're going to treat it like one. Are you better than every other game? You have told me I need to treat you that way. So, the hardline official statement about where I land on those kind of dudes. I think that the absolute losers who went after developers and critics because they are motivated by bad faith right-wing takes and biased opinions on what is ultimately a video game made by people making something quite genuine are not the least bit where I'm coming from. That they were spewing hate that was misogynistic, that was transphobic, and I'm going to tell you, I bet none of them were ever going to play the goddamn video game anyway. I think that kind of right-wing grifter has absolutely no shelter on this channel. I am not interested in hearing their opinions on video games. And they are welcome to go enjoy whatever it is that still seems to make those people happy, though the list seems to be getting shorter by the day, in whatever their corner is. I do, however, think that The Last of Us is an imperfect video game, and I'm going to critique it as a critic. Not because of any biased opinions I'm bringing to it. Those people are just the worst and could not be less what we're about here. Also, I know that that's relevant with some of the critiques that I have about game journalism here. I think the game journalists are doing a heroically good job with the limited resources they have, and I think game critique is critical, absolutely critical. But I am going to be critical of the place it's in right now when I think it's not in a good place. Not because I think that there's anything that needs to be... we certainly need to not be going after people. I lived through Gamergate, and that shit was horrific. Horrific. But that's extremely different than, we probably should be having reviewers who are trained reviewers. You know what I'm saying? This is, due to the nature of the fights I picked, the most I've needed to take a moment ahead of something to just go, I am not one of those dudes. But I think ahead of this essay, let's just have the moment. Right? Right. Thank you Now we are all on the same page. Wish the movie video got over 1 million views. Hate where the industry is. I appreciate that. Please share it. Definitely please share it. I think, we're in definitely a tricky moment for AAA games. Woke is back. Yeah. Their strongest soldier has arrived. I think I've mentioned before, a friend of mine who's an indie dev who I am not gonna name has introduced me to the term dark woke, and it just keeps cracking me up. It really does. My official statement. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. But I think it's fair to say that I'm not happy with where the gaming industry is. But there's so fucking Silksong came out less than a year ago. There's so much beautiful art being made here. This doesn't, I think that we need to both be able to say great games are still coming out and great art is being made still. But it is possible for those things to exist while the industry is also in a bad place. And I'm nervous about the bets they're chasing. Most of the lists you've seen still put Ocarina as the greatest. It's subjective, but for the most part, you think Ocarina gets the balance of game story right. I mean, there's honestly not that much story. I talked to Skitty Bitty forever ago about wanting to do a React stream for their Tears of the Kingdom essay. That is still going to happen. It's just a long essay, so I got to book out like a day. It's been years since I had an open day. But I'm going to do it, and I know that a place where, and only love to Skitty, who is a beautiful person, and we go way back. So this is only with love. I know we're going to divide on the fact that, to be honest, I don't super care about the particulars of Zelda storylines, and I'm a big story guy, and I'll elaborate when we get there, and we talk about that one day. But it's just because legend is in the title. They are myths. They are legends. I take them mythically. And from that perspective, individual notes about like bits of dialogue or bits of canon fall by the wayside of sweeping details. It was great. Yeah, it is. It is. I'm like, I've watched some of it. I've skipped over some of it because I want to see it fresh, but only love to them. Anyway, let's go take a look at the fight that I picked, huh? AAA part of the industry is a mess. It is a mess. And worst of all, people are being hurt for it. If they were just making stuff that didn't interest me, that would be fine. Let's watch something. Undertale. Much as you love Zelda, the stories aren't why you're there. It's the gameplay and the vibes. But how good is that gameplay and those vibes? Am I right? Finally bringing out the Undertale music. One of my favorite games. I'm not going to be surprise, much, but I think it was worth it. Surprise! Just the one time. I pick a lot of fights. Who is this guy? Video, and that's not really what I want this channel to be. And I figured that rather than just be a disembodied voice, this dude pontificates, huh? That I want to be. Breath was a bit of a drag. I get that. To you, like a person. Oh, let me pause. Not to pause already, but I just want to get the alignment right so you have the subtitles. There we go. Thought Breath was a bit of a drag. Yeah, I mean, I like it, but it's definitely a game. It is what you make of it, Face reveal, yes and no, yes and no, yes and no. Who is this guy? I really just want to make sure I say, I'm right. I'm definitely right. Was that too confrontational? A few fights. It might have been. I kind of came into it intentionally like that. Criticize an industry without criticizing the thought. I have been told I'm far too deadpan, and I think that happened. Just sort of against the wall here. Games don't emerge from the ether. They are made and promoted and played by people, and I am just going to end up having to criticize the work and words of some of those people if we're going to be able to have this discussion. Yep, kind of what I was saying just now. For the most part, I'm punching I should have just let me say it. A little less up. I like to think that I'm mostly... Is Flesh Raven different than Game Raven? You mean, is that a different Raven than me, Raven? Can promise you that I kind of like that canon. And because these are my opinions, I do think they're correct ones. Oh, that's my Wharf stash right there. That gets praised for pretending to be a different art form, and this industry should find that humiliating. Gaming is my favorite art form. I'm still playing Marathon Vault Breaker's fun. It's a good way to learn cryo because you've never done it before. I have it downloaded. I haven't picked it up in a bit because my crew's been doing Destiny raids lately. But I really, really, really want to try Vault Breaker. I might think I might run a game or two at the Discord if I can. But I really want to try Vault Breaker. I really hope it brings people in. I'm so glad there's been a player jump as a result of it. Video could be, but I do know video could be louder. I'm just keeping it low because we're not in the essay itself, so I can talk over it. Didn't think I came off too deadpan. I really appreciate it. Look great. Tell me more. I'm done pretending that it is. Like it makes it funnier? Okay, good. In this discussion, missed the boat to Disney Island. Gaming to make a richer whole. This is, of course, wonderful. This is how you get films in which every frame is a painting. There's no dispute that that's lovely. Thank you for being here. But would a film critic ever say, this movie looked like a bunch of paintings? Finally, film has ascended to the level of art. Thank you, Rinichi. Film is art. Film goers, film critics, and filmmakers know that film is art. They operate under that assumption. They operate under the knowledge that that is hard. Zenless, huh? We all agree on that. Way Last of Us melted Sony's brain, made you dislike it more than it did. I actually agree. I think I dislike it more post Ghost of Yote, which kind of was just looking at Last of Us Part 2's homework. And I like Ghost of Yote, but it was like, by the end, it's so Last of Us Part 2 to the point where it kind of undercuts its own stories in ways that Last of Us Part 2 did not undercut its own story. And I was like, okay, if y'all are just going to keep cribbing off The Last of Us, you're actually going to make me kind of resentful. Vault Breaker is interesting, especially as someone who never touched Cryo. More simple than it could be and some issues, but it's cool. I think Cryo is just a miraculous map. People were a bit more divided on this video, people not liking your examples of non-cinematic games, criticizing my politics. Yeah, I definitely had to poke out a little. But it's, you know, this sounds like bullshit, but I am actually glad to have the conversation because I don't think we're having this conversation so much. It sounds like such a bullshit streamer thing to say, but I do mean it. They're acting a little ashamed of the medium, apologizing for it. Yes, this one has good and satisfying mechanics. Yes, this one is great. They sure have remade the game enough. Money. But look, this one is art. And what do they say is art? I like that edit. Come on. You know. Fucking great. The grape. Take advantage of that.
She's
It's all these. I have proposed before that the endless pursuit of filmic elements in video games is less an intentional artistic choice and more a pursuit of respectability for the medium. Does The Last of Us have cutscenes shot like pulp? Which is funny because people actually, I think there's a few arguments on that point. And again, the fact that I believe I'm right does not mean I'm right. The fact that I believe I'm right is why I hold these opinions. You don't hold opinions that you believe are wrong, I hope. It does not inherently mean I'm right. I am going on stage and screaming my part of the conversation. If someone has a counterpoint, you can also go make a video essay. But so I'm very, very, very okay with being disagreed with, in spite of the fact that I think I'm right, at least. And I think that there is plenty to be said about what it is, like what it is that we want to get out of these. You love Uncharted? I love Uncharted. Nathan Drake whips ass. How good is Uncharted 2? Uncharted 2 is absurdly good. I love Uncharted. And I saw someone say this video is a natural step forward from the Rebirth one. It's prioritizing spectacle over efficiency. Yeah, I totally see that. I would call that fair. I'll let myself keep going. But in a previous video where I said that I think chasing filmic stuff is chasing respectability for the medium, people actually really liked the point there. And then I made a video expanding on it, and then suddenly people were much more split. And I think the difference is because, like, in this one, I go, you get that game you like is doing that, right? And then people go, whoa, 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 put the gun down. But I think this is a pair with Rebirth in a lot of ways. And I kind of knew that going through it. Shooting and editing. This is also a pair with Rebirth. This is also a pair with Rebirth in me going, these things are objectively good. There's just things to critique about them. And then I think some people being like, you think that all games are terrible? The issue people have now is that I criticized it, and on the internet you can't criticize something and also like it. Exactly. Yeah. I love Uncharted. I would take another Uncharted any day now. I actually think the last Uncharted that released, which is not Lost Legacy, that's the Vita one. Is that the Vita one? The one with starring Chloe and Nadine. That genuinely may be the best Uncharted. If the last one is maybe the best one, I will take another just like that. Double standards for the things we enjoy is a recurring trend. No shot. You are absolutely right about that. For sure, 100%. Because the idea was producing a cinematic zombie drama game, and pulpy TV dramas were what that looked like at the time of the game's development. Ironically, Telltale's The Walking Dead cares much less about looking like pulpy TV dramas than The Last of Us. People really didn't like this point. Later, Telltale's The Walking Dead has a more distinctive vibe as a result. If we don't feel people really didn't like that point, even though that's like one of the colder takes in the video, that stylized graphics just naturally age better than realistic ones. One person who replied to, who claimed I said Last of Us was a bad game, and I was like, but he said it's a good game, and they were like, yeah, but then he said mean things. Here's how we're going to break this discussion down. One, what do we call this type? All right. I mean, there's not much you can do. What games do you use the media? There's not much you can do. I think Sony will live on. I believe Naughty Dog will be able to limp on after this video's publishing. With a few intermissions in the middle for some hotter takes. You can skip those if you want. I will say you can skip them. Let's start by getting our framing right. First, what do we call this? Grape. Oh, mixtape.
Never seems to know when enough heavy-handed expositional dialogue is enough.
This man.
Detroit Become Human manages to be a frequently moving melodrama that bends to your choices with meaningful results.
Did you know Detroit was on the Underground Railroad? A route for slaves escaping into Canada during the American Civil War?
David Cage. What did she mean by that? Champ in the battle for most embarrassing appeal to auteur theory. Okay, I will say, big issue with this video. I should have spent 43 more minutes going after David Cage. You all are welcome to shame me for that. That was definitely in play. I should have put like another 3 hours into criticizing David Cage. I will absolutely accept any critique there. Is Grape the new Push Clones clip? It might be. It kind of cracks me up now. Would have us call these games interactive dramas, and that is unfortunately for me a pretty solid name for a genre, but I'm petty enough to insist on something else just to spite him. I propose we keep French? No, dude. No, the French turn out such good art. Truffaut is like incredible. This is the thing. David Cage isn't honoring them is the problem. Keep it simple. Movie games. Games which are trying to be movies. The contradiction of it all is right there in the title. I want to preemptively push back on the use of the word cinematic to describe or label games. Yeah, because they made a live service game for some reason. Spots in this essay, but cinematic is an adjective and thus open to all kinds of flexible interpretations. And also, I mean, honestly, cinematic drives me absolutely f***ing crazy as a descriptor. You never hear it when critics describe movies because
This
it would be an
credit
insane thing
scene.
to say, like describing pasta as food-like. Cinema is cinematic. But what does cinematic even mean? Cinema is a vast, vast art form. Cinema is John Wick, it's Barbie, it's Psycho, it's Koyaanisqatsi. Is there any common denominator here other than being movies? And even if there is, do we see bits of each in cinematic games? I try not to speak to my own history too much on this channel, but it's pretty important to this essay to establish that my personal background is in film directing, screenwriting, and to a lesser extent journalism, which affords me the status
A little bit
of
more
being
Raven
everyone's
lore.
least favorite person to talk about movies with.
Nobody
And
likes
I
talking to me
love
about movies.
deep, introspective cinema, but those aren't what's on my regular rotation, nor even what makes my list of favorites. I may be a film person, but one of my favorite movies is the F1 movie.
Let's
my most
go.
watched film is definitely John Wick 1. The Fast and the Furious Tokyo Drift is one of my favorite in-theater experiences.
So much
I'm
fun in
down
the
to
theater.
clown, is my point. And even with my background, games are still my favorite art form. So please understand my background as I say with unique certainty that cinematic games are not games which have learned from the vast and beautiful and varied art of cinema. Cinematic games are games in which you run and jump in scripted events and actors take overlong pauses in every cutscene.
Mate, I really think that you should take it.
These clips were way too easy to find.
What?
I just looked through like some published trailers, a few published cutscenes. Tokyo Drift is a blast in a theater. They got Sonny Chiba in that, and he was like legit good. Mentioning my background and calling me pretentious, giving content. Yeah, I know. Which is so funny because it's like actually 1 minute of a 90-minute long video. Like, I guess I could just be talking out of my ass if you want me to be, but I'm not.
So we need to reject cinematic as a term, because these games don't want to take after the vast possibilities from a century of varied cinema. They
The
mostly
game-
just want to take after 3 out of the 5 Indiana Jones movies.
Yes.
And nowadays, they especially
And honestly, the new Indiana Jones movies want to take after video games, the way they look. Not inconsiderably because of how CG they are, I guess.
want to take after TV and movie dramas, movie games. That's my proposal. That's what we're working with in this essay. Nerds love categorization and charting, and I'm a nerd, so let's put together a scale we can refer back to as we discuss, and maybe find some points of reference for where all of this can go. There are going to be some nuanced, sleeper, itch.io, indie darling games that give more.
No one wants to talk to me about movies. Maybe that's why the video went weird. Totally. This is my problem. I opened my mouth about movies.
More nuance than I can give, and all sorts of tiny holes you can poke in this, and I'm just going to ask you to work with me here. All games play with the possibility space, the potential scope of interactivity within the design of
I
a
was-
game.
I-
The possibilities available to
I
a
was
player
uncertain how familiar
This is not a judge
people
of a game's quality, because what
were with the possibility space term, but it's a term that means a lot to me. I was introduced to it, like I think most people who know it, I was introduced to it thanks to Waypoint. It may even be an Austin Walker-ism. And if so, I apologize for using it for my nefarious misdeeds. Where I hunted for sport for my Last of Us review. My spirit is talking to you. I'm still on the run. I'm in witness protection. I'm in witness protection right now. Please, that's why the mask.
Possible without its tight focus. No, it doesn't have a good glory kill system, but that has no place in the game. Even if Jimmy does deserve to have his spine ripped out. Then there's Mixtape,
Keyframing's
which,
so
you know,
bad, but the
it-
joke's so good.
Well, it certainly seems to remind reviewers about themselves, and seeing themselves in a game makes that game worth Game of the Year consideration.
Like
Spelling
Smashing
error.
Pumpkins Love, which
I had a
was the
spelling
song of
error?
my, I would say preteen adolescence into teen.
Oh, goodness.
Multiple times things would happen that I'm just like so impressed, and it feels like it was made just for me.
What does he mean by
Reminds me
that?
of times I once enjoyed, but in hindsight, wish I'd held dearer in the moment.
They're at the Blockbuster walking around. It's like I remember that so well of just that.
Like, how did they know this?
I was
I feel that
watching.
way. And I feel like most people that play this game are gonna feel that way too.
I'm not connecting with it on as deep of a level as you guys, and it might be era, it might be age, it might be like I did not grow up as a white kid in the 90s, right?
Mixtape is less a game than a collection of playable music set pieces without fail states, strung together with a basic narrative saying nothing you haven't already heard or lived about growing up. Yeah, I mean that's the I was watching these reviews and so like it wasn't even that I disagreed with them inherently, it's that none of the reviews were critiquing the work so much. And I think the more adept way to put this would be there weren't so many people critically engaging with the text of Mixtape. These were people talking about what Mixtape meant to them, the humans hanging out. And while that's unbelievably worthwhile, that is not a review and not a very good one. And I'm not even saying this is of course never going to be a channel screaming for objective video game reviews, because that's bullshit. But it is still just going, yeah, well, this was like me. I remember that Blockbuster song is not the same thing as talking about what a character arc meant to you, what the nature of the direction of a scene spoke to you. And certainly going, well, the direction of the scene reminds me of this movie is also not the same thing. That's kind of just saying a fun fact. And so my criticism of Mixtape is coming from an extremely frustrated, but mostly extremely confused place. It has perpetuity rights to its soundtrack, which is so spectacularly expensive that even Rockstar Games do not pursue perpetuity rights contracts. But Mixtape was funded by a production studio owned by the daughter of a billionaire, and it will regardless be a strong contender for Best Indie of the Year. I'm getting worked up. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. On the widest open end, we'll put The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. My most pointless 45-second tangent, I think. It is about as open as a game of its type can be. There is no such thing as an objective review. There just is not. There just is not. But I mean, you see it, right? Breath of the Wild isn't the least bit interested in making you think it's anything other than a game. And it's fine with being the art that it is, and it is that thing triumphantly. Mouthwashing is literally called a play in a Washington Post article about the game. A smaller possibility space for a game does result in a deeply curated experience, which can be used for artistically unique experiences. But if the game's Game Awards are going to be limited, weird. It sort of demands a creative perspective. They're going to be real weird. To make good use of it, lest it be kind of, well, nothing. I agree. With these defined, let's stretch out a bit. Visual novels, by this scale, reveal the depths within that non-visual novel respecters are quick to snobbishly deny. I join the VN Defender Army. The thing is the story. The interactive power a player has. And come see me talk about visual novels on Himbos and Husbandos, a history of Otome games at Otakon next week. In some VN genres, who they fall in love with. Thank you. Are all under the player's power. I don't care how many people this riles up. We're going to bat for visual novels. Are the whole game. It's like if Doom let you decide the guns and levels in which level. Look at that flowchart, man. Split off into any number of other level choices, dependent upon a flowchart of stacking decisions, and the final boss could be one of countless different fights. Seen this way, the possibility space of a visual novel relative to the aspirations of the genre. I think I mark it earlier, but this game is Virche Evermore, which I repeatedly cite as potentially likely my favorite Ultimate game. This also made a fight happen in chat on the watch along, yeah, because I still can't totally parse what happened there. Can't wait for Jeff to hand out commemorative PS5 discs. Only a little bit more time left on those. A Hitman game, an Uncharted game, a great game, a bad game, or woke. For a fun little game to play in your downtime, guess which of those claims. Save a spot for you in the nosebleeds? No question, man. Let's do it. Now for some reason. First Light is ceaselessly devoted to the experience of living out a Bond fantasy, and does so through, among many, many things, some of which we'll touch upon later, masterful structure. Multiple missions in First Light have a kind of blown out possibility space where you can approach a problem in a number of different ways, which then progressively shrink down as the tension builds, so it can explode into a directed filmic event. In this, First Light reaps the tonal and aesthetic benefits of a limited
the bits where I mentioned First Light, I think are sort of intended to be kind of my script based olive branch for what. Listen, man, I completely fuck with cover based shooter with sick ass cutscenes, and cool guy takedowns and good all that jazz. The ones that really, really resonate with me are going to explore in the space of the game design they can do. And I think there's valuable critiques to be made of First Light for not being as expansive as Hitman, but its goal is not to be Hitman. And maybe First Light deserves a better, more nuanced, broader discussion about we need to critique games based off what the games are trying to accomplish and not critique them based off of things we feel like we would like also. What's the drama? What are people mad about your views? I mean, well, in about 2.5 minutes, I'll show you the frame that YouTube tells me is the moment where people stop watching the video. How about that? I'll put it that way. Give me 2 more minutes. I'll show you that frame, and then I'll tell you something statistically funny. Man, recording this Bond footage was so much fun. I just went and played a game I love a lot.
Comparisons to Uncharted, as movie game as a movie game could be. But these comparisons are looking into the forest and insisting there are no trees. Yes, you have no other option when Bond dives into a garbage truck and drives straight to escape. And yes, one can draw comparisons to when Nathan Drake dives into a car and drives straight to escape.
This set piece is so good.
The entire game until that point either jumping or shooting while moving in a straight line, except for when you drive a car around an open space and stop and select environments to go jump and shoot in a straight line till you return to the car.
Perhaps the most I can do we need to be able to criticize things we like is Uncharted, because baby, do I love me some Uncharted. And in this very segment, I use the Jeep set piece as an example. And I got to tell you, when I because that's the E3 trailer of that. When I went and saw that, and I was just watching it, and it screwed up my editing. I had to watch the entire set piece, and it just goes and goes and goes and goes and goes. And it's this most very little of what you're doing on the controller matters much at all, but boy, it rips. Boy, that thing that is happening around you moving the stick and eventually shooting a little, boy, that thing rips. What a set piece.
As you drive a car or jump or hang on through set pieces, you are moving a thumbstick left or right on a limited path after, at that point, already moving through a limited path with limited options, before more gameplay of moving through a limited path with limited options. It is cool, but it's a reduction of options in a game where there are already limited, if not similar, options. When Bond dives into that garbage truck and escapes in Kensington, it's not even slightly the standard mode of thought in the game. It is the game releasing the cognitive load of choice and analysis you've been making for an hour at that point, and just telling you to have a good time for a minute.
Oh yeah, what do we think of game audio? Because I have a little bit in here, and I've been hesitating to use game audio, but I think I'm going to try folding that into the mix a little in the future.
Your possibilities are about as mundane as those of a video game could possibly be, even on the surface. Kill all enemies in open combat, kill all enemies from stealth, or avoid all enemies from stealth, if this is a sequence that allows that. Many sequences make it look like you can avoid enemies from stealth, but if you try to do the interact that will let you move on to the next scene, someone will appear and a fight will start. Your tools available are hitting people, stealth killing people, shooting people, or throwing things at people. Sometimes they're not people, and they're zombies, and then the engagement intentionally limits the space further. The game strongly instructs
this
you
track
to
is so
stealth when
pretty.
clickers are around. Even within your conflict, choices are sometimes even more limited than they appear. I get the sense that the intended design is the player approaching engagement from stealth, picking a few people off, and then getting caught and roughing your way through as it descends into wanton violence.
Which was
As
always the way, the set pieces always felt
fights are
pretty good to
intended
me when
be
I did
approached
that.
From a particular path and perspective for
Ghosting them never
maximum
felt good.
dramatic and aesthetic impact. As Noah Gervais puts it in their video on The Last of Us games,
However, it also means that there is generally an ideal way to get through any encounter, the ideal blocking of the scene you're expected to intuit. A lot of deviation from that, and you'll certainly die. This isn't to say clever alternatives aren't possible. You're meant to have to work within scarcity, but it does mean that you can mess up badly enough, quickly enough, that it often takes several tries to figure out what's meant by an arrangement of rooms and enemies.
I agree entirely, but from my view,
It is everything I can do not to just quote Noah endlessly, but then I wouldn't be good at anything.
and the movie will still work if you don't hit your marks, but you'll always feel like the production fell a little short of its potential. The light doesn't hit quite right, the environments aren't quite as interesting. Ducking past the enemy's line of sight feels less structured and elegant. Actually, you know what? I can't avoid this conversation any longer. Let's just rip this Band-Aid off.
All right, this is it. This is it. Not the majority of people who watch the video, but there is no other single frame of the video that causes the largest drop off in viewership like this frame. And normally I don't like get into the nuance of stats like that so much, but YouTube Studio really wants you to see them. And here I think I caught this on a stray day, and it was like, hey, you know, X percent has this issue with this, right? And I was like, okay, what is it? And then it was extremely literally this, and I just started laughing. I started clapping. So it's, you know, started as hooting, hollering perhaps. Coughing. Oh God, no. Yeah. So I feel like you can't have the discussion about the nature of cinematic games. I'll go ahead and, as an olive branch, use the term everybody uses and not talk about this game, right? I also feel like, to be completely honest with you, you can't have critical discussions about games without talking about these games. And if I'm going to then talk about these, what I also can't do is lie to you. And so we end up here. And I just want to say, I think this fandom has been through so much shit, and I could not more strongly understand a defensive instinct to protect it. However, your franchise will be all right. You have literally Pedro Pascal. You will be fine. My video cannot hurt you. I think the game's good, and that's why those words appear on screen in here. You've no strong feelings about Last of Us, never played, didn't care, except for Season 1, Episode 3, which is so gorgeous. That episode's so beautiful. It's so beautiful. There's a separate discussion we will not get into about the fact that the best episode of the show is all stuff that is not in the game. Here we go. Take it away, Pass Raven.
You
Bury
may
me.
know Naughty Dog as the esteemed developer of the three.
Oh, the backlash against Abby's appearance was unbelievably disgusting. Oh, unbelievably. And what Laura Bailey and Ashley Johnson went through when primarily right-wing losers went after them is absurd. They're incredible actresses who did an incredible fucking job. The acting is so good in these games. Absolutely. It was disgusting.
and saying that this game is good, but it's not very interesting. It better not align me with those losers. God's favorite video game, it'll be all right. I know. I just saw some doofus saying that you're acting like The Last of Us and Uncharted are not the best third-person shooters, but I can come up with 10 games on the top of my head that are better than them. Yeah, I know. Sony could make this game's release a holiday. They did. The Last of Us Day. They literally did. Once a year, there's The Last of Us Day. Like, that is a funny joke, but they literally did. They released, like, new remasters or new covers or whatever. 3 Last of Us remasters, but once upon a time, they actually released 2 The Last of Us games. I mean, that's just a good joke. That's just a good joke. A small gaming site, which was a job I loved very much and still do. The Last of Us released, and the senior editors on our very, very small staff were too busy to review it, so they handed it to me. I played The Last of Us and thought, you know, this is fine, I guess. Where is Final Fantasy Day? To look at and very well acted. I thought it was a deeply obvious video game. Sarah is not on the cover or in any of the trailers, so Sarah's Yeah, Last of Us Day is September 26th. So we're all going to celebrate, right? We're all going to celebrate The Last of Us Day together. Because Sony made a fucking holiday. Definitely about to die in 10 minutes. Cutscenes have pauses that imply words not spoken, which gives the false impression that feelings and thoughts are held deep. I said it. I said it was good. I'm even going to say it again later. I said great stuff about it. Good God, this soundtrack is great, right? Only implied, but characters are really just explicitly stating their thoughts and feelings and circumstances constantly. How do the writers show, not tell, early in the game that Joel is a blunt, violent instrument and sneaking past enemies is not his style?
We can sneak by them, even though I know that's not your style.
Some anime-ass dialogue. Netflix second screen level introduction of Tommy and Maria. Rather than trusting the player remembers Tommy from the intro they're gonna spend the next 13 years calling the best opening in a video game, or having Tommy act as if Maria is someone he's tender to or has any chemistry with at all to demonstrate their relationship, they just make sure everyone looking at their phones can follow along.
Know him. He's my goddamn brother.
Ma'am, thanks for not blowing my head off.
Would have been embarrassing, considering you're my brother-in-law.
I must have the wrong house.
Sister?
Above all, that's definitely my favorite joke in the video. I will bring up the Folgers ad any opportunity I am given. It's so good. X-Men movies made a bad movie like it. Oh my God, yeah. Well, I just have no respect for a game that does not respect games. The mechanics of the that too is not a hot take. I don't know when that became a hot take. Us are equally obvious. The most obvious. Let me put it this way. I didn't think I was saying anything all that insightful with a lot of this. Cover shoot game you have played already and will play too many times again. Rubbing up against every corner of every environment to grab screws for a light crafting and upgrade system is entirely without depth and asks no thought, only time. It really only exists to buy time so that the characters can talk while you're walking around. The character progression is so minuscule as to be invisible. Making an extra shiv or getting a second holster is as close as the game comes to progression affecting the interactive possibility space in any meaningful way. But come on, you know the gameplay isn't why people talk the way they do about The Last of Us. Let's not bullshit each other. The gameplay isn't even at its most interesting in the campaign. It's actually at its most interesting in the multiplayer mode. R.I.P. factions. R.I.P. factions. People talk the way they do about The Last of Us because of the story. Because of Joel and Ellie. Because of the performances and Gustavo Santaolla's gorgeous, aching acoustic soundtrack. And none of that has anything to do with video games or has anything at all to say or do within the medium. You can't hear the music from the video now, so it's just my voice in a very serious tone. That's pretty funny. That's funny. So right there, I put in the come on, let's not bullshit each other, because I feel like part of the critical discussion surrounding these good games gets screwed up because everybody really does just want to talk about the incredible cutscenes and incredible acting and really strong characters. And they kind of stop off to be like, but I do like the stealth action cover shoot gameplay, but I do like it. And it's like, can we stop bullshitting each other? Just tell me that these characters meant a lot to you. Very honestly, it's okay. It's totally okay. And I'd much rather be having that discussion. When you hear people talk about The Last of Us, it's only about the characters, not about the gameplay. It's a means to an end, like filler. Fucking exactly. And I just feel like I want this to be a place of honesty, and I think that we're not being honest when we're pretending that's not the case. Because it's okay. That makes this a good game, and it is a good game. But it doesn't make it the best video game ever made. And yet, we're calling it that. And all the things I just said are super objectively true. Totally objectively true. I source it in the video, and everyone in here has walked around and heard all this shit before. This is not new information. What you feel about it is where we differ, and it's completely fine if you feel different. That's actually awesome. Like I said at the end of the Rebirth video, I am jealous of you if you love more in this world than I do. The moment that the Naughty Dog style fell apart for me, I think, wasn't realizing any of this. It was when I noticed, in their initial forms at least, that every cutscene was preceded with a frame of black. I couldn't unsee it. If the same actors had voiced an animated series instead of a game, it wouldn't have changed the story. Yeah, I mean, that's the HBO show. And some would tell you that's a better telling of it. Games are finally growing up. We've come a long way since Pac-Man. The game happens. And after that point, even as new releases loaded fast enough to stop using those frames, I couldn't stop seeing how much of what we really seem to love about their games is packed up and boxed into a space that gaming has nothing to do with. With a background that stretches beyond gaming, I often bring personal experiences outside of games into my experience with them. And among those experiences is just like knowing The Road by Cormac McCarthy. Are people mad that I said that I know The Road by Cormac McCarthy, you think? In the book's case, venturing across a post-apocalyptic America while dodging cannibals and marauders. Along the way, they make uneasy connections with other survivors at the urging of the child against the more mistrustful and severe father's instincts, all while the father insists they are doing what must be done as they are the good guys. I'm not going to pretend there aren't differences. This is not so literal an adaptation that anyone's suing over. Gaming people with Pong. But that is definitely The Last of Us, right? Come on. That come on is a second instance of like, we can go on Reddit and we can have the breakdowns, doing the comparisons, breaking out the charts, or we can just be two humans existing in the world and look at that plot and look at this plot and just go, okay, but yeah, of course it's that. Yes. Duh, it's that. I don't want to get into the Reddit chart by chart discussion of this, discussion of that, and I'm not even saying plagiarism. I don't think it's plagiarism. I think it's inspiration. But my come on there is meant to be a, look, I can do the analytical breakdown, or you and I can just both be people hearing words right now and having a shared understanding of the known universe. And these are discussions that I just feel like people are not having them this way because everybody just wants to be so angry. And in turn with that, I'm about to say potentially the angriest sentence you're going to hear on the channel. But as Noah Gervais also cited, GQ says, not from Noah Gervais, they have nothing to do with any of me. The Last of Us is a totemic game often hailed as the greatest of all time. Empire ran a poll asking players the top 100 games, and The Last of Us, again, won the greatest game of all time. And noted it was its story and characters that really set The Last of Us
every time. I got the
Vice ran
receipts.
the slightly less hyperbolic why The Last of Us was the greatest game of the last console generation. Well, I say that if the greatest game of all time, if the best this art form can do is a standard stealth knife cover shoot game doing a loose adaptation of not Cormac McCarthy's best book, delivered in the style of a now disgraced AMC show, then this art form should be ashamed of itself. So yeah. So until
Let's talk. We can let this run a little bit because that's kind of it.
I don't think The Last of Us is bad.
Oh.
But I do think it's a middling showing for an interactive medium and a guileless, obvious.
There we go. We'll leave it on this frame that I think people unhappy about my takes on The Last of Us are exposing that they were like doing their laundry or had their phone to the side, and the words that I put on screen do not reach their experience of it. So that's definitely the harshest sentence that I've written, and for that reason, that specific sentence I debated right up until publishing. I am still not certain keeping it in there was the right choice. I will be very honest with you. Given another week. No, this is the better way to put it. In another week, I would have pulled that sentence. But then Sony decided we're going to kill physical media. And then I remembered, oh, this is just a big dumb fucking corporation. And I've actually said that the work done by the artists involved is good, and I hold to that. Look at the screen that is paused. The work done by the artists is good. But I am a YouTube channel with, at the time, 4,000 subs. I think the creatives involved will be fine. And so I kept the line in there. But you know, a few weeks out, I'm uncertain. I really am. I stand by everything I say in this video. Of course, it's only been a little bit of time. I meant it when I said it. I mean it now. I suspect a year from now, I'll still feel the same way and I'll still stand by it. And the moment I don't stand by something I said previously, I'll talk to you about it. But I did, you know, it's so harsh. And that's really not the tone I want this channel to have. So I really battled with it. And then Sony decided to kill physical games. And then I just went, you know what? Fuck it. I think I can put a clown nose on Sony for a few seconds. I think that's fine. If I was ever going at or naming individual artists in this video, I would feel differently. But I very intentionally do not want to isolate individuals because games are made by so many. Last of Us is not made by Neil Druckmann, and we need to stop talking like we are. Last of Us is made by hundreds of immensely talented people, if not thousands. And so I don't want to take a swing at an individual person. And if I named an individual person, I think I also would have pulled that line. But I'm talking about one of the biggest games ever made, said to be the best game ever made by one of the biggest console manufacturers who have ever made. And for that reason, I think I'm allowed to say the F word. I think that's fair. Not on you to make people pay attention to what I'm saying. People are going to misconstrue my words. That's inevitable. Yeah. Still called it good. Gave reasons why it's not. I mean, I appreciate that. I do. This is a channel about art. And at its best, this is a channel about loving art. And this is a moment that's really not about that. And so I just need to be careful with that. I really do.
He is showing.
But I appreciate it.
I reviewed it and I gave it an 8 out of 10, which probably sounds generous after all of this. In the comments, people who hadn't yet played the game rioted. My editor sent me an email before publishing it saying that...
Yeah, Bruce Straley gets wiped from the story, and that's... I mean, I'm not going to claim to know what went on there, but Straley did good professional work to turn out a beautiful, well-assembled video game. And well, you know, I wish him well, and I hope people remember his work.
That he hadn't played the game either, but still believed my 8 was too harsh. Weeks later, he told me that he had played the game and felt like he agreed with my review, but still would have rated it higher, which is, as I say it out loud, kind of a mystifying thing to say.
It's so funny.
I don't want to call him out or say his name or anything. Joseph's a good guy. I don't think The Last of Us is an interesting game, and I don't respect it. It is a movie game beyond any dispute. But you all say it's the best we can do. And that's why this essay has to exist.
All right, we're going to take a very quick break. We're a third of the way through. We're going to start going a little faster from here. But obviously, that was a section that demanded a lot of discussion. I'm going to get some water. You get some water, too. We will be right back.
Hello again. Hope you got some water. I did too. Neil acts like Bruce never existed. I mean, we don't know the terms of the breakup. We know that a breakup happened, but we don't know the terms. There may be stuff they can't say about it. So we don't know. We don't know. I listen, I certainly have my feelings, but I increasingly have a public platform, and so I want to be more careful about it than I would have 5,000 subs ago. You know what I'm saying? Rebirth is average game is 5 out of 10. I know we fucked the scale up so bad. Don't give zeros to anything but AI slop. Of course, AI slop 0 by default. Never give 10s. There's always room for improvement. Any number in between is fair. Yeah, I agree. Here's the thing. Perfect world, that's the way reviews work. But if your game gets like a 67, it's for the Zoomers in the room. If your game gets a 67, then your game's dead. Like Mind's Eye, which is part like AI slop, part failed attempt to appeal to the blockchain, part just open scam, still got like 5s. Like, that's not halfway there. Rebirth is a 4 because it wasn't the worst, but I had too many issues with it to put it any higher. I see. The thing is, in a perfect world, I think that's totally fair scale, but we screwed it up because we attach it to like Western grading schemes. Game journalist from your country gave Advanced Warfare 12 out of 10. You know what? It would be nice. That's so funny. It would be nice to... I get so up my own ass. I need to have these debates with myself about whether it's moral to play or purchase Zero Parades for Dead Spies. And it would just be nice to be a person who's like, I think COD Advanced Warfare is literally beyond perfect. It would be so it would be so much easier. I would have so much less angst. Disagreeing in 10 Dogs is 10 out of 10. Okay, that's fair. That's fair. Australia, 50% is a pass. Yeah, America screwed this up. Stop me if you've heard that before. Game framing established, as well as our running scale for the possibility spaces within the games we're talking about. I want to now finish framing the discussion by presenting an example that uses the medium in what I believe are important, meaningful ways. But I also want to emphasize firmly and early. This essay does not propose that games with small possibility spaces are bad. Oh, but we could get into that, couldn't we? Movie games are praised or reviewed well. This essay also does not propose that all games with small possibility spaces are games with cinematic aspiration. Many of them talked about that earlier. Are quite good, and many of them are games that I like a lot. Spider-Man 1 and 2 absolutely fall into this vision of cinematically designed and framed games. But they are open world games and straightforwardly much gamier than any recent Naughty Dog game. Games which aren't using the interactive nature of the medium to do what is special about them are, however, definitely not. I love the advanced suit so much. Sorry, the Spider-Man fan is coming out. I love the advanced suit so much. I think a good spider suit is one that you go, at first, and then you adjust to it and discover you love it. I think you need the moment of, He says he likes these games, but then says mean things, so who knows what he actually thinks. I know I'm swerving on you. I'm swerving on you. Only 0 out of 10s or 10s out of 10s. I think a higher pass grade would suggest a higher standard of education. Yes, you would assume that, would you not? Not as interesting to me. They are often trotting familiar ground in their playable mechanics, or not using the medium of gaming much at all. I have a fondness for some games that do not innovate, but I have a respect for most games that do. This early in my video essay career, it's time for me to rip the Band-Aid off and talk about Nier Automata. Everybody gets one. Yeah, it's always going to come up at some point. Just assume if text appears on screen that it's my dear Lord, I just want to put a screenshot on the page so nobody can get it twisted. And then people get it twisted anyway. But whatever. Understand, because take the words on screen whenever you see them in the future as me in the editing booth going, somebody's going to misinterpret this. I'm just going to put the words there so they're just there as an anchor. This is an understanding between you and me that now in the future you'll be able to look at that and know what that means. You don't need me to tell you that Nier Automata is a beautiful, distressing game about hatred, perseverance, and how we can be undone by our hearts, even if following them is what makes us human. Nier Automata, which I pronounce that way because to me the title evokes the word automaton, and pronouncing it automata makes the person sound like they're from New Jersey. This took so long. this took so long, and then when I did it, like the Nier logo specifically, when I did it, it came out looking so good that I had a slight panic attack going, are people going to think I AI generated this? Did I do such a good job? And like, I can give you my Clip Studio file. This is your boy. This is a Ravenwing original. But it took so long all to punctuate into me going, oh fuck, people are going to think I AI generated this. As a Canadian, learning it takes a 70 to get a passing grade in America was so weird. High pass grade set students up to fail because they don't believe they can achieve it. There's certainly a sense of despair, I'll tell you that. This game can only ever... But I'm from the dark future, so... This is the only medium in which it works. Its possibility space is limited on the face of it.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Game with light RPG mechanics and a post-apocalyptic open world. Wonder of wonders. For the most part, you do...
Oh, yeah. Cut joke. After the Wonder of Wonders, I previously had a saying that I say a lot in person. The Devil Wears Prada florals in spring groundbreaking, which I think is hilarious, and also a sign that I am a big fan of Pointy Hat. Much love to Antonio D'Amico. However, Man Carries Thing had just released a video about what videos edited by millennials look like versus videos edited by Gen Zers. And when that video came out and the video edited by millennials bit came on, it was always hastily cut in clips from millennial films and TV shows. And I realized that I was doing the exact thing Man Carries Thing was making fun of. And I got so... the two things that I battled up until the moment of publishing. Do I keep... It's a great bit. Do I keep this single line that's really, really harsh, understanding that it buttons the point, but it does change the tone? And do I keep this one abrupt clip from Devil Wears Prada? And I said yes to the first, and I said no to the Devil Wears Prada. But that was initially spliced into that line read. What about the human familiar? Pointy Hat's human familiar is I will line up to watch any single word he says, and it aches deep in my soul that I come extremely close to going to conventions where Pointy Hat's human familiar goes, and my schedule never quite lines up. But love his work. And ever since he started the Florals in Spring groundbreaking, I have never stopped doing it.
Cool sword stuff. In a combat system that asks, what if some of the best combat designers in the world wanted to make a game that even Fire Emblem fans could play?
Gotta add that to the list.
Never mind, that's the best joke in the video. Never mind, that's it. Just watched a video today that had a clip from The Devil Wears Prada hastily edited. It's a good movie. Our moments throughout both. It's a good movie. Streep is a gift. Emotions or reactions that wouldn't be possible in another medium. When the melee stylish action game shifts genres entirely. Suddenly you're in an arcade flight game. Suddenly you're in
Man Carries Thing is always onto
Suddenly
something.
You're in a text adventure.
One of our best
Both
comedians.
Nier games are looking to you, the player, and acknowledging that more methods of interaction exist than the game's standard modes. And the only thing keeping these designers so focused on melee combat is the necessity of the setting.
Oh yeah, much love to the Fire Emblem fan in the comments. If you're here, only love to you, sir. Saying that this was exactly their path through action games. How dare I call them out so accurately? Let me tell you, only love to you, friend. You passed through the veil honorably as far as I'm concerned.
Like the characters in the Nier games, the design chooses violence even when other possibilities exist, because violence to them is the most natural option to go with. And both sides of this fourth wall agree that the only place pure violence can end is despair. A movie can shift genres, to be sure, and some abstract movies do exactly
So
that.
we're hardcore in death of the author territory here. I think that I am cooking when I say that this game shifting genres is establishing that more verbs exist than violence, and yet we are only doing violence, and this sort of contradiction is in the story itself. I think I'm cooking with it, but I do totally buy the idea that there might be bullet hell sections in this because this creative team just thinks those are cool.
Reckon with this, take control of it, and exhibit some degree of mastery over it.
The movement was
Through
great,
this,
yeah.
The lived experience of the game and its story are constantly pressing against the limits of your expectations and will not let you see
Oh, the
more
soundtrack.
until you agree to meet it where it is. It is ironic, as some may be quick to point out, that I have chosen something which does have an adaptation in a passive medium. Nier Automata has an anime adaptation. I am not a big anime guy, even if I used to be. So I'm going to defer to experts on this and bring in the brilliant Anime News Network review by James Beckett. Excerpts from the review.
This
and
review's
its conclusion.
so
Read,
beautiful.
Imagine, if you will.
So I will leave it on screen so you can read it while I talk. I'm like nervous to tell Beckett about it. I follow him on Blue Sky. He seems like a very critical person. I suspect he wouldn't appreciate being in my video. If I played other Yoko Taro games, a few. I am not going to claim to be a hardcore Taro guy. However, my brother is. My brother has been. My brother has played all the Drakengard games. I did play Drakengard 3 and really liked it. Yeah. So I would need to look through his oeuvre. I'm much more of a Suda 51 guy. Except for the last 3 seconds of the last video. What about Sino Alice? I did play a bit of Sino Alice. That game's awesome. Is that game's dead, right? From Siphon Filter and Splinter Cell, those are great TPS with stealth. Oh man, your mouth to God's ears, for real. I rebeat Splinter Cell again last year. It still holds up, and I'm going to tell you, unfortunately, it trounces a lot of modern games today. Very dead. That makes me sad. Most shocking that I'm not an anime guy. I was, and I still play tons of anime-inspired games, and I love manga. But I don't love anime.
Off in a way that
Not
only
anymore.
Cannot happen in a passive art form, but can only happen in a video game specifically. Nier Automata is a game of many messages. I even proposed one above. But the final message it wants to leave us with is a deceptively simple one. In an impossibly bleak universe, there is nihilism. But if the truth is nihilism, if nothing in the universe really matters,
Multiple
then
top
all
10
we have
anime
is each
betrayals in
other,
here.
And the weight of the world is on the good we can do for each other. So the game sends us off in a closing credits sequence with the appropriately titled Weight of the World, a soaring, aching ballad which transitions seamlessly between multiple languages. English, Japanese,
this edit was
chaos
hard.
language, a kind of imagined Esperanto for the Nier universe.
This edit was really fucking
The
hard.
seamless transitions lay the groundwork for where we're going. No barriers between language.
I'll do myself a favor and
multiple
leave the
singers,
music
and
up. So, yeah, you know what? Actually, I'll just straight up pause this. I like went to the track, broke down the layers, tried to progress measure by measure through the different voices until we land on the chorus at the end. Editing this was fucking hard. And it's only because I treasure this moment so much that if I was going to tell it in prose and supplement it gently with visuals and mostly with music, then I wanted to not fuck it up. I'm not convinced I didn't fuck it up, but mostly just because the music, the moment, everything it means so much to me. And talking about something that means a lot to me is so much harder than talking to me about stuff that doesn't. Last one I watched, Lord, it's been a minute. It's been a minute. I'll talk about my anime history sometime, because I used to just devour anime. Last one I watched was rewatching Gundam Wing. How about that? And then before that, I watched Cardcaptor Sakura for the first time, and this was like 2 years ago, and it like one of the most beautiful, incredible things ever put to screen. Specific. Oh my god, no! You know, I also watched Nana, I think a year ago, and was just fucking incredible. I got to go pick up the manga. So not new ones, that's for sure. Think that counts as being an anime guy? Oh, I'm not telling you I'm not an anime guy. I'm just telling you I'm not a current one, and I watch maybe one like every 2 years. Or one a year, maybe. But I do read a ton of manga and play a lot of an old anime guy. Well, I'm not going to own that.
Multiple cultures brought together without boundaries between
Love
them.
2D animation. Wish it made a comeback. Oh my god, right?
That it is about to start deleting data somehow. And allowing this to happen launches you into the game's final challenge. An extremely basic shooting game. An interactive sequence as the credits continue. Seemingly a fun and cute little moment to send you off. But realistically, you will begin to lose as you get overwhelmed, and every time the game asks you, do you give up? Do you persevere? As messages of other players appear on screen from people you've never met, encouraging you to persevere or empathizing with your struggles.
So special.
And listing where in the world they're from. The
So
universality of our plight, but also our willingness to support each other through shared challenges. The game
Getting the
offers you
beat
assistance
of the
from other
transition to
players
the voices here
randomly
was
chosen,
hard.
and you unite with them to continue the fight. The game noting when others fall as the song reveals its final trick. A chorus singing along to the song. The developers of the game, including its director and composer, their unprofessional and untrained voices beautiful in their unity. And all music but their voices fades away. Creators you will never meet, who will never know you, here to sing you off at the end of the work they've made for you as you struggle alongside other players you will never meet, who gave their support for you knowing that you will never thank them for it. And finally, when all is said and done, the game asks, will you support others as those other players did for you? And it tells you the cost.
Get to the
it
voices.
will delete all of your data in order to make this happen. It tells you what you've done, played the whole game, unlocked
Let 'em go in
bonus modes,
supplements.
and asks, will you delete all of that data just to give your support, however fleeting, to someone else in the world that you will never know? And here the game reveals the final masterstroke to complete the entire experience by finding a verb no movie or show could ever replicate. Sacrifice.
That's the punctuation to it. Like the anime is old, not me. That's what, yeah. Game was to you what people see in Expedition 33. I get that. You got through the sequence without accepting help? He's so based that he like avoided part of the messaging. I do respect it, but damn. Someone complained because some of the messages are pre-generated. I mean, I don't need to go through each comment that disagrees with me or whatever, because this isn't the goal of the reaction streams. But I will. That is the kind of thing that is super obviously in bad faith, because the point is that the game is making it so you can sacrifice in the process of communicating its message, and that's super obvious. And so if you're getting into the weeds of, well, I mean, this is a Word document that exists in the game files. Did you think about that? Is like, you're just like coming to this in bad faith. You're of course not engaging with what we're really talking about. Weep for those who stopped after ending A. I know. Will not go past ending A. They didn't get to the title card. It's been 9 years. I can say at least that. They didn't even get to the title card. Only in an interactive medium can a player struggle for growth and progress and power, and thus Nier Automata. By the way,
only
2017, we got the localization of Yakuza 0, Persona 5, and Nier Automata in the same year, and Super Mario Odyssey,
unbelievable year. By the way, I'll just be totally straight up about this. I know that I have some artifacting in here. I know why that is. It's just due to some timeline settings that I have, and the fact that DaVinci makes it so you cannot adjust conflicting frame rates in your timelines once you've begun editing work. So it's me being inexperienced with the platform. I know how to work with it, and ideally will not be facing those issues in future videos, but I'm well aware of the artifacting. I'm really sorry. It's inexperience as an editor, but I think I know how to not do that again, because it just looks like garbage. I hate it. The only lesson the game industry took from this is that we should put 2B in everything. I know. It drives me crazy. In an interactive medium, can the player sacrifice the fruits of their labor? But that sacrifice is the essential final link to make sure the player understands what the game has been telling them all along. Nothing means anything outside of the meaning that we give it. And far more meaningful than having saved data in a video game is knowing your dozens of hours of struggle will be packed up and sent off to just make someone else's life a little bit easier. The development team is almost literally singing at you the game's plea to human universality before asking if you are ready to sacrifice for anyone, anywhere, with empathy in your heart for the mundane struggles germane to human nature. Do you see how that's literally impossible in any art form but video games? Do you see how this is a vastly more compelling use of the art form than delivering meaning via static cutscenes where characters talk at you in between shooting or punching or stabbing people?
I fucking knew I couldn't count on you.
More Last of Us slander. More Last of Us slander. Look at this man. Look at what he's doing. So I feel like, why subscribe to Auteur Theory even though it's known to lessen the role that other people play in creative projects when you talk about Kojima and the games he directed? Why do I subscribe to? Because that's a misread of Auteur Theory. Well, the whole reason because that's not what Auteur Theory is. Auteur Theory has been memified by the internet to mean saying one person involved in the production is the entire production. Auteur Theory is one of multiple schools of film theory, which are different arenas of critique, such as Marxist theory, such as queer theory. Auteur Theory is in there as well. And Auteur Theory is looking at a work through the lens of awareness of a particular lead creative's preferences, history, what they are likely to bring to the work. It is just a lens, like all different schools of film theory are. And so that is a lens that is valuable to slip on and slip off. And so there's a few different parts of my essays where we slip on the lens of Auteur Theory. I don't know necessarily how it applies here. I do for sure wield it pretty hard in the Kojima section, but he is an auteur. There's directors who are. Neil Druckmann's an auteur. Yoko Taro's an auteur. And so, I mean, you know, it's, you can discuss whether you feel I should have applied different schools of film theory, but unless I'm misunderstanding, I don't think that's what your critique is. Do let me know if I missed something though. About this in this essay, and I need to make this argument, is that neither Nier game makes that Empire poll of the top 100 games. Toby Fox's indie RPG masterpiece Undertale is one of my favorite games ever made, ever. Tragically, voters in the Empire poll do not agree, and Undertale also does not make their top 100. That's just
Hopefully
crazy to me
next
time
still.
you can make a better RPG than Tales of Arise, Tope. Listen, man, Tales of Arise is pretty good, and Ray Chase and Erica Lindbeck slay in this, and those designs are so badass. I was so close to making this before I played the game, and I kind of didn't love its politics. It's a little you gotta hand it to the fascists, to put it in short.
At least one or two of them. However, this game isn't better than Nier. This game isn't better than Undertale. It's good. It's good, but come on, Obi Fox. Undertale seems to carry the traditional structure of most turn-based RPGs wrapped around an extremely heartfelt, funny, postmodern experience, all set to one of the best video games. I never finished Arise either. Undertale relies on you approaching it, and I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to hurt you. I don't mean to hurt anyone. I don't want to shoot anyone. As if it is a traditional turn-based RPG, because it wants to shake you out of one of the genre's core assumptions, that random encounters mean you need to do combat. In most role-playing games, battles occur randomly when exploring, and your time-honored tradition preview of upcoming video monsters you've stumbled into, claiming experience and money as rewards, and then moving on. In FF8 isn't the next video, but it's long past time. I gotta start praising FF8 from high heaven. Undertale battles occur randomly when exploring, but fighting is not an assumed response. Fight is only one of your core options. If you do not choose to fight, you can attempt to show the enemy mercy or act, a catch-all for all manner of strange things you can do to either tire out the enemy or find common ground with them so you can show mercy. Through the... well, I'm using FF8 as an example of an RPG with random battles, but that is the full extent of its relevance to the essay. Act option, myriad opportunities arise. Undertale's already a masterpiece, and Deltarune somehow manages to be even better. I'm chapter 4 so good. With me, you love FF8. I think you need to start accepting the fact that people care about your opinions. You know, I don't think my mods aren't allowed to shoot me in the head like that. My mods are supposed to protect me against assassination attempts. I think the good and bad of this channel, is that I think I'm just a guy. And now I have over 5,000 subscribers and hundreds of thousands of views. And like, I do at some point need to stop going, why does anyone care? I'm just a guy. And I can't put out my opinions and be like, I didn't think people would react to my words and thoughts, but I didn't. Yeah. Dangling over disliking my own video. Oh. Video essayist found dead on his own. Did you remember? Can you believe Ravenwing Plays died on stream? That's just me being humble. That is extremely kind. That is an extremely kind interpretation, and I will welcome it because it's very sweet of you. That is an extremely kind interpretation of what is definitely a neurodivergence showing. I am very touched that people do care about my opinions, and I am very horrified that people care about my opinions. And I do need to start going, fuck. I mean, I guess people will respond to the fact that I will take them in and think about them and respond to them. And I haven't lived like that so far. But I'm going to try to only do videos about things I love for at least the rest of the year to give myself some peace. The next two certainly are. I guess you should start FF8. FF8's so absurdly good. It's like so absurdly good. Aware was just an example. Oh, okay. Just surprised to see it of all FF games used as one. Because I got to spread the good word. Taken down by kindness, you're telling me. Dancing with the monster. With y'all always. Consoling one who seems sad. Incomprehensible amounts more. It is a richer game to play this way.
and
So
certainly
beautiful.
one more loving and heartfelt. Undertale is a story about lonely people making bad choices and finding hope in our capacity for understanding each other. And so the game
Asgore.
directly incentivizes putting the work in to understand everyone you meet, even your supposed enemy.
The Last of Us mages successfully managed to make me combust.
That showing mercy to those you don't understand is good. And that's all very well.
Oh,
and
the
good.
lab was so
Lord
good.
knows James Cameron is spending the back half of his life and billions of dollars trying to do that. A game can put the choice in your hands to think through your actions, look over your options, and choose a more compassionate world, and see the fruits of the compassionate path that you've chosen. And a gameplay cheat sheet for Undertale's sequel,
I loved
Deltarune.
this.
Toby Fox
This bit
notes
that I
the
cite
player's
here.
cursor always defaults to fight rather than act, because choosing this should always be a conscious effort from you. It's a small thing, but every act of
One of those moments, it's important to remember that every single choice in a game was a choice someone somewhere made. It didn't just spring into being, even the placement of your cursor.
the player consider and intentionally choose this. With this in mind, can't you see how miserable it is for a game to have such possibilities and then not explore them? All due respect to the fine readers and writers of Empire, but I feel like if the best video game of all time wants us to consider the ramifications of violence and choose compassion, and it is the only art form that gives choice to its audience, maybe the best video game of all time could have choice literally at all. You can certainly say that I have cited two unique masterpieces in gaming to serve as pillars of the discussion, but I would say that these are masterpieces because they are using gaming to be things only games can be. And if other games would like to be masterpieces at this scale, they should try doing that sometime. But these are, of course, only my opinions. There are plenty of game critics who love movie games, and I think we should talk about that a little. We need to talk about game reviews, but I need to set some framing down first.
Framing important.
Rich, vulnerable, articulate reviews and critique run parallel to any proper art form.
Good critique enriches art. Art demands engaged audiences and interested critique. Okay? Hard line right there. This was, I will say, a divide that I actually had even when I was into it. This is a divide that I had with anime communities because many anime fans are very anti-critique. And if you attempt to critique it, you will get a lot of shrugs and, I mean, that's anime. And it's like, well, if you want this to be an art form, we need to treat it like one and critique it as such. And I believe that video games are in a desperate moment. We need valuable, good, incisive critique right now.
And video games are enriched by the work of proper critique, whether it be positive or negative. Game reviewers, as I will touch on later in this section, are often working in imperfect circumstances and doing the best with what they have. I believe that game critique is not in a good place, but not because of any issues I have with anyone's politics or a desire for people to be objective or any of that grifter nonsense. I believe game critique is in a bad place because there isn't a diversity of voices or outlets, as sites like Waypoint are gutted, and articulate critics or reviewers with the background to treat games like an art form lose out to loud people with good microphones and good social media teams.
Yeah, I'll in fact, I'll, for the purposes of just this stream, say directly what I mean here. Things have gotten better, that's for sure, but we still need the balance of white dudes to all other life experiences still swings unbelievably heavy towards white dudes in the space of game critique. And many of those dudes are very capable critics. Listen, man, you're not going to see me hating on Patrick Klepek, even though there's the whitest done Chicago guy you ever did see. However, he is an exceptional critic. This is not a critique of their work. This is, however, we need as many different life experiences and as many different diverse voices as humanly possible in the critical space, because none of us individually will ever know enough. None of us will ever experience everything. And if we only get
samey slivers of life perspective, we aren't going to get the richness of discussion that we need. Not just white dudes, but middle class upbringing, millennial white dudes. 1,000%. 1,000%. And the answer, and why is that the case? Because critics right now are a class of critics who came about at the turn of the blogging era. And you had to be a person who had access to games, who had access to computers good enough to play games, and had access to computers good enough to be participating in IRC chat rooms, a family that had enough money for you to be able to travel and go to other events and meet people back in like 2012. And guess what? That was middle class to upper middle class millennial white dudes. It just objectively was, if you just look at the numbers. And that's fine. But we've democratized voices, the ability for voices to get out now, and it's long past time we hear more of them. Long past time. Ever play 1,000 Times Resist? It was my game of the year it came out. I adore 1,000 Times Resist. Adore it. A playable stage production. And it is, and you're welcome to pair that up or critique that against anything I say here. That's fine. But I will tell you, there's nothing like 1,000 Times Resist. Absolute masterpiece. Just like a mind-expanding experience. Love that game. Another big reason is that this industry has created a psycho hodgepodge of reviewer and journalist that is serving absolutely no one. Roger Ebert was not both reviewer and reporter. He was a film critic, and so he wrote critiques and essays. He did not also hastily publish articles about Spider-Man trailers. Journalism and critique are Roger Ebert's bit on being a fan of the Chicago Cubs is one of my absolute favorite bits of writing ever. One of the best. And then I found out Noah Gervais cited that in an essay also. My icon. If game critique is ever going to grow up, reviewers need to be reviewers and journalists need to be journalists. And worst of all, we're stuck with a lot of people who are iffy at writing both. It's miserable, right? I have played so many fewer games since I started this channel. This channel, I have to stop playing them to make a video. This channel is fucked up my video gameplay. I'm so behind all of a sudden. I empathize so much. The concluding paragraphs of their review.
I was always going to be a mark for Mixtape. As a coming-of-age movie lover with an ear often lent to the guitar music of decades past, and someone who likes to indulge in the bittersweet sensation of melancholy,
that grayscale's not mine.
It's as if Beethoven and Dinosaur made this just for me. The beauty of Mixtape is that you don't need to be exactly the type of person it's for to get a lot out of it.
Which, you know what? I'll go. How about this? And if you ask me, this is something far meaner than anything I say about The Last of Us. I am tired of seeing millennial white guys play this game and go, and not just me, anyone could like this. And then the moment not a millennial white guy talks about it, they go, yeah, I mean, it's good, but I don't relate to this. It is so many white dudes looking to white dudes and going, with our diversity of experiences, we all relate to this, right?
Much like nostalgia, it brings out feelings you may have long forgotten, through faces and songs you may have never seen or heard before, but which bring familiar, faded emotions with them all the same. It reminds me of times I once enjoyed, but in hindsight, wish I'd held dearer in the moment.
So, setting aside the rhetorical pratfall that is the reviewer talking about themselves, saying Mixtape appeals to more than just themselves, and then immediately talking about themselves some more. I go full college professor in this. I will tell you, I never was that. We must stop and ask, what are they describing and why is it working for them? The game's title makes it clear that it is meant to be taken as an album of favorite tracks, and I think the reviewer liked the album. Much like nostalgia, it brings out feelings you may have long forgotten, which bring familiar, faded emotions with them all the same. This is me bringing out my red pen and scratching over paragraphs at a time. Just defined the word, basically. It reminds them of times they once enjoyed and wish they had held dearer in the moment, which is just saying the definition of nostalgia without using the word nostalgia again. And I assume at that point in the review, their editor had told them to stop writing the word nostalgia so much. In the next and final paragraph, they start their concluding paragraph in a critique of Mixtape by defining nostalgia for us again saying, nostalgia is a bittersweet feeling, but one we can't help but fall into the clutches of, whether by choice or not. Yeah, living in Baltimore. No, I'm not surprised. I'm seriously not. It's a very specific life experience cited here. It really, really is. And so there must be more to it than the relatability of so, you know? Yeah, but the characters are terrible. That doesn't bother them. I mean, listen, that's not great either. And then finally release us from this loop by explaining that Mixtape captures nostalgia effectively through its musical choices, surprising gameplay twists, and masterful sense of style. I've read this review a few times over now to try and parse what they mean by surprising gameplay twists, but out of the 12-paragraph review, only 1 paragraph and a sentence are devoted to any of the gameplay. Man, I really did put up one of these kind of screens, huh? Am I a real video essayist now, I think? This review is essential for our discussion. Nikkei Music is emblematic of how we discuss movie games and usually how reviewers, standard bearers for critical thought in the medium, approach and critique them. It is good, vulnerable work for critics to speak to what games made them feel and why. I have done this 3 times over myself and will do so many, many more times to come. But in surface of a vulnerable piece about what he feels, this writer has lost the plot on critiquing the work as it exists. Why do critics obsess over movie games? This review gives us our first answer. They make reviewers feel things. And in that feeling, reviewers either cut them extra slack or just drift over the work entirely. I'm beating up on this review a little. Which, I want to be very clear, this is something that we all experience, where we go into an artistic work, we come away feeling something from it, and then going, oh man, you know, as a result, I liked that. Or I just want to talk about my feelings more than I want to talk about the objective thing. It's how you run into conversations where if you criticize someone goes, well, it meant a lot to me. And it's good. It's like genuinely very good that it does mean that to you. It is good that this work means something to this writer, but that is not critique. That's just telling a cool thing about yourself. You need to then, you can base that can be the baseline of your critique. This made me feel things. Here are the things about it that these artists involved did to have this art evoke those feelings in me. But if you just go, I saw myself in this and I felt these things in this, that's just saying cool things about yourself. And movie games make it so easy to say that and stop there. You've learned the value of saying, I like this thing and it's not quality. And the opposite, I don't like this thing and I know it's quality. The day that becomes widespread is the day everybody will be done with my channel, I think. Because Lord knows that is, I think, the uniting thread between this and the FF7 video. Little bit, and I want to explain why, because being a critic, critiquing a critic, very bluntly, feels bad. Feels bad. It's just unavoidable, because whether the writer intended it or not, this review from IGN will almost certainly be the most viewed critique that Mixtape will ever receive. And so it has no choice but to frame critical discussions surrounding the game, and thus I have no choice but to pick it apart a little if we're going to talk about the way these discussions are framed and approached. It was really important to me to have a moment to talk about why I was going at this single piece, because this is an instance where I said I'm doing the thing that I really don't want to do, of pinpointing work done by one person and going at it. But a review is just done by one person. It's just unavoidable. And yet it still feels really bad. It feels too much like targeting. And this little bit where I explain why I'm critiquing this piece so much, it is useless to the critical work I'm doing here, but it's useful to me as a creator managing a channel in the future to let you know, I promise this is not to just go after a critic at all. If anything, my intention is to just talk about the words, but they've screwed it over by talking about themselves so much in the words. I would love to just be critiquing an essay. Reviews are marketing, whether the reviewers want to be part of that system or not. And IGN, being the biggest gaming site on the internet, puts a unique spotlight on their reviews, which we do need to have some sympathy for. And to be fair, reviewers are often contractors working article by article on limited pay, beholden to the editors of wherever they're working. And editors are the ones who are supposed to catch tautology in writing like this. I believe without a certainty that Simon, the reviews writer, wrote something legitimate and legitimately personal to him. And it was IGN's editorial team who should have tightened this up a bit. Oh, Simon's a senior editor at the biggest gaming site in the world.
I genuinely did not know that while writing this piece, and then I went to fact check myself at almost exactly that moment and hit this punchline at almost exactly this line. I had a follow-up line that was one of those dark screen off mic gags where I said that, well, at least I'm not punching down. And my read of that line was just terrible for some reason, so it didn't make it in.
Another reason reviewers obsess over movie games is just time. Reviewing a game.
This bit, I think, was taken wrong when I put it into just a short. This is not me saying for a second why you should not trust reviews. This is me championing how difficult a situation reviewers get into with these. Me trying to offer you a perspective you may not have considered on the review experience, and finally go, but listen, these are suited to that and are just going to give you a better lived human experience. And I can see why this segment may have been taken otherwise, but the intention really is to appreciate and champion the work that is being done despite very difficult circumstances.
Is sometimes hard, frustrating work. As a player, taking things at your own pace, with no goal but your own enjoyment, you have no connection at all to the lived experience of a reviewer. You are playing the game after the day one patches, without a deadline to draft and edit and publish, without money on the line, and the looming stress of an audience who are going to have opinions on the number you assign, more than the 1,000 words you assembled.
This was discussed a lot with Crimson Desert reviews. I think Paul Tassi talked about this a lot, and I think there's valuable discussions to be had about it.
Cyberpunk 2077 is a masterpiece now, but its initial impression was disastrous. And considering the circumstances, of course it was. Without the patches that would come, reviewers had to crunch out anywhere from 30 to 60 hours of a game coming apart at the seams, with the pressure of one of the most anticipated video game launches ever looming over both their deadlines and their expectations.
Hey, multiple people disputing me saying Cyberpunk is a masterpiece now, and let me tell you, you know, I get it. I said that perhaps too authoritatively, but I like it. So I'll own that. I'll own that. I still think I'm right because it's my opinion, and you should think that your own opinion is right because that's what an opinion is. But it means a lot to me. But I said that perhaps a little authoritatively.
So, as we discussed, in a past life, commenters on a tiny site ripped me apart for giving The Last of Us an 8 out of 10 before any of them had touched the game, based only off of their own preconceived notions about the game. For critics reviewing Cyberpunk, one of the most anticipated games ever made, probably 20 hours into a deeply flawed experience, looking at what was increasingly certainly a 5 out of 10. With no words written and potentially no end in sight, how could they not be just, on a totally human level, having kind of a bad time with it? Movie games share very little of this burden. Mixtape has virtually zero extra content. It has no fail states, and it is 3 hours long. It is, as far as the review process goes, a vacation. It must have felt like a smooth massage of a review. The Last of Us clocks in at around 15 hours and has an episodic, binge-worthy structure and clear, blunt emotional beats. No one needs to put in cognitive work to feel what The Last of Us is trying to make you feel. When I reviewed it, I cleared it in 2 days and didn't feel much pressure at all.
I feel like I actually I was kind of onto something there, and I had to move on for the own point. But the fact that it takes no work at all
to feel what The Last of Us wants to make you feel. It's not a negative against the game at all, but I wish I had expanded upon the fact that it's one of those things that is like, this is such a game, like, for the, this is the casual gamer's thinking game. The 1,000 Times Resist takes a lot of processing and a lot of thinking and a lot of feeling from you, and you never need to question what is happening in a scene in The Last of Us, what it's trying to communicate to you, what you want from it, ever. And I kind of wish I had expanded on that, because I think there's something interesting to find there.
Charismatically, with heart, assembled from well-crafted individual pieces that make a meaningful whole.
Me saying that this is assembled from well-crafted individual pieces from a meaningful whole. Dude in comments, why do you hate God of War? Bro, I love God of War. I may be on Ragnarok, but I love God of War.
Takes effort to sink into the mood and worlds and tomes of reading in Planescape Torment or Disco Elysium. It takes dedication to find your path through Elden Ring and Bloodborne and come out the other side in one piece. It takes patience to wind your way across the peaks of Death Stranding. It does not take work to like God of War or Uncharted or Spider-Man. It does not take dedication to understand what The Last of Us wants you to feel in any given moment. When Atsu, the
You hate
ghost
God of War?
Yotei,
I get it.
ventures out on a
I
quest
get it.
for revenge, any familiarity with action movies at all will give you everything you need to guess every single plot point the game is going to hit. The most basic cognitive faculties will reveal hidden identities and death flags in the looming specter of Atsu realizing, perhaps too late, that revenge is bad. But these are all delivered so winningly, with gorgeous visuals and
What a pretty
beautiful
game.
music and gameplay presented such that you think it's challenging enough to feel proud of yourself for progress, but not so challenging that you would ever drop the game. And so, of course, these sell well. Of course
Interesting. You liked
They are, as
Ragnarok
one can
more
note
than
of
2018?
other
That's very
major
interesting. I feel like that's a
games,
hot take.
Objectively good, but they are not as games all that interesting. And their scope of possibility is very, very small, and that's fine. I love Spider-Man. I love God of War, but it only explains why these games are considered very good. It does not explain why these would be the standard bearers of an interactive medium. And these are the standard bearers of our favorite art form. The reason I'm pinning so many of Sony's games here is that they were the last bastion of this type of game.
Yeah, because I do treat these as pillars because these are hugely, spectacularly expensive games, and there's a decent chunk of the gaming market where this to them is games, and everything else is variations on it. And so we must treat these as pillars, because if they're not pillars, why are they given so much fucking money? Why are they given such a place in the zeitgeist? If these aren't the pillars of the industry, why do they have the views on YouTube that their trailers have? Why do they get 7 years to get built? They must be, otherwise that doesn't make any sense. And if they are, then we must analyze them as pillars of our industry.
Through the PS4 generation, before a bout of insanity struck them and a live service push decimated the PS5's library.
I gasped when I saw that, by the way. And this includes games that are unreleased, have no gameplay footage. This is inclusive of that. I gasped. I have a separate paragraph that didn't make it into the video about this. I'll probably shoot it for Patreon.
Sony perceived this type of game as so momentous
Paragraph,
that
section,
they could
I
be
mean.
produced at spectacular, impossible budgets and treated effectively as marketing for the console. It would be lovely if Spider-Man 2 made back the $300 million they put into it, but if it gets people buying PlayStations and controllers and PlayStation Plus subscriptions and entering their ecosystem, then that's an even bigger long-term win for them. And
Even more so now, huh? So they can get you buying their games on their closed store. Ugh.
Major moments for the medium. It's funny to note this now, writing this the day after a PlayStation showcase bookended by two of these types of game, Wolverine and the poorly named God of War Laufey, and impressions of them are fine, broadly good, of course, but you can definitely get the sense that the universally ecstatic audience...
This section did pretty well on TikTok, and I think I'm dead on.
Bridged somewhat now, not inconsiderably because some people have caught on to the house style at Sony and are getting tired of it.
Also, I hate the stupid freaking Jack Quaid. Cube
This
in
channel is
Donovan.
anti-Jelly
But I suspect
Cube.
this sentiment isn't enough to topple the movie game dominance. I suspect that on release, Wolverine will have a review floor of 8.5 out of 10, and critics will praise the performances, and there will be a think piece or two about the mutant rights discussion framed. I kind of nailed it on this edit, right? I kind of nailed it here. Please, this is not real. Please don't treat it like it is, even though I did an unbelievably good job editing this. You feel like someone's playing a joke on you. It's like a parody that you're not getting it. That's really funny. No, I get, hey man, you don't need to apologize to me. Cube's great? Cube's great? No, not the Jack Quaid Cube. All right, I'm out of order again. We will be right back. We're in the last push. Hello. There we go. Hello, 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 hello. Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. Thank you so much for the super chat. Thank you so much for the super chat. Even though there's a lot to criticize Sony games for, we'll say when it comes to presentation and production values, always blow you away. Absolutely. You'll say it was strong suit since the PS1 days. Absolutely. Yeah, no, for sure. For sure, for sure, for sure. I think, you know, so there's a discussion that I think I'm having like 20% of in this video about the fact that crazy escalating budgets in crazy time are going into Sony games, and and I think we should analyze that, think about that, critique that if needed. But it is good that someone out there is still holding the flame of this type of thing, because the Sony PlayStation exists now because Sony was embracing new technology with CD-ROMs at the time. And we're able to take things in a more technologically advanced, less restricted, and less expensive direction than the walled garden of Nintendo's cartridges on the N64. And you see this with like FF7. I mean, I talked about it in the Rebirth video. FF7 pioneered all of these new horizons technologically. Metal Gear Solid pioneered these new horizons in technology. And the Sony exclusive is now synonymous with that presentation and production value. And so if you are a person who that works for, who that speaks to, then don't go anywhere else. Don't go anywhere else. And it's good that they're doing that. And that makes games which I love, like God of War and Spider-Man, like Uncharted. But does it produce games that are interesting? And is it worth the time in people's lives and the expense that goes into it? And that's where there isn't an objective answer at all, and there is just a feeling. I'm skeptical. I am absolutely skeptical. But do I think, do I love many of these games? I say so in the video. Is it open to interpretation? Is it open to opinions? Whether or not the time and expense come and goes into production values that speak to you personally and what you want personally, that is open to opinion. I can't objectively say whether that's worth it or not. I'd have to be pretty full of myself to do that, maybe. Or more confident in myself to do it. An original Crash and Spyro games. Oh my God, right? Is it good? Is it good? In my opinion, it is good for a diversity of experiences to exist, insofar as it is good for big, spectacular, big budget movies to exist. Is it good for these budgets to be so out of control? Absolutely the fuck not. Absolutely the fuck not. And the graphical arms race has led us to a cul-de-sac of fiscal irresponsibility. Is that good? No. Are big budget Hollywood style AAA big explosion run shoot jump games existing good? I do think that the joy that brings to people is. And if these things cannot live in harmony, then I must simply accept the contradiction and the fact that it is possible for multiple things to be true at once. Sony and Square. Square I'm infinitely more critical of, because for Sony, if they light $300 million on fire for Wolverine, they're just hyped about the fact that in 2028, you need to pay only them if you want to get new copies of Wolverine. For Square, it's insane that they do this, because Square wants you to buy the game. When they spend $300 million on a game, they are hoping that they make $301 million on it. Sony isn't going to make $300 million on Wolverine, but they're kind of fine with that if it means that a bunch of people buy a PlayStation 5 and then can only buy stuff on the PSN in 2 years. So Square, far more so. Far more so. But thank you for the super chat. I think the simple perspective of, but I like it, is a more meaningful part of the discussion than it may come across. Against current day politics, as game criticism catches up a brisk 60 years late to X-Men discourse. The combat will be an afterthought in reviews, as there won't be much to say beyond it is like Spider-Man's combat but heavier and more visceral. Which we're already seeing. Game critic for there is a lot of blood. And the inevitable skill tree progression will be praised without much further explanation. Did you see that you get skill points for the skill tree if you pre-order the game? I cracked the fuck up. Lawfey is the most interesting this series has looked since 3. Oh, I can't. I don't go where I can't follow. Her like sword attack has the same animations as the Blades of Chaos. If you see like her forward flip animation.
I love Deborah Ann Wall. I'm excited that Deborah Ann Wall gets to lead it. I'll tell you that.
God of War Lawfare will get breathless 9 out of 10 reviews in which no one can talk about the story because they'll be under strict embargoes.
The embargoes
but
are
can
going to be
say
so
it is
bad.
moving, and a few male critics may write the words, "I'm not ashamed to admit it, even got a few tears out of me towards the end." Reviewers will be split on whether Frank the Jelly Cube is a witty contrast to Faye's serious demeanor and the story's high melodrama, or
Paul hasn't seen this, right? I don't want him to get mad at me.
if he is an out-of-place and unfunny distraction. Frank the Jelly Cube memes will be so obnoxious. PlayStation social media accounts will get in on it, and people will say to back off their boyfriend.
This is the most brutal thing I said?
Attractive
Oh,
and
Lord.
approachable. They will be pretty good, potentially even very good. But when they're remembered, it will be for their cutscenes, and their scripted events, and their finisher animations, which will all be excellent, even as they just won't be very interesting at all. That is why game critics obsess over movie games, because it is easy to like them.
This looks like this because Sony won't, because Sony isn't going to recognize me as a content creator and doesn't send me press kits.
Hard to hate them. And they're
Because I talk like
approachable
this.
Mass media, even when they act like they're not. But they're not very interesting games. And if they're not very interesting games, you'd think they would try to be interesting movies. But they're not very good movies either.
So I'm
Movies
quite
have a
I'm quite
massive
proud of this
edge
section.
over-
I'm quite proud of this section where I get to pull a bunch of knowledge that means a lot to me. And maybe I'm wrong, but I've seen basically no issues with this section. And I think it's partly just because it is me excited to teach you things in service of a critical framing.
for games trying to be movies through a few major differences. But the biggest one is this. Movies do not have to accommodate us. The player is the chaos element. The player must be centered, otherwise the foundation of the production literally makes no sense. Yet given any amount of agency, players instantly have enough power to ruin framing, pace, tone, and execution. Effectively the entire production of a film.
It's kind of interesting that games sort of can't ruin dialogue inherently, at least the words on the page, and yet most games have kind of iffy dialogue. It's kind of funny. They could have great dialogue and maintain that, but writing is getting quite good. But just like scripting is kind of not.
Personally have a bad habit when playing movie games of holding myself accountable to the dramatic intent of the scene. If Kratos is meant to dash in and enact his overpowering rage against an enemy in a moment of emotional catharsis, I feel really bad if I die and undercut the moment or survive but perform badly in gameplay, because I didn't perform well as an actor in the emotions of the scene. We can call back to that note of The Last of Us intending you to intuit the marks you're supposed to hit. It isn't really in character for Joel to be a Splinter Cell perfect stealth agent, and some set pieces can feel a little fragmented and incomplete if you try to ghost your way through. But if you get caught in a corner and mash the melee buttons till it's all over, you're performing a pretty terrible fight scene, and if you approach the set piece from the unintended angle, you're likely to find yourself out of alignment with the intended visuals and enemy placement.
This happened to
In
me a
both
few
cases,
times.
the games have
The
such
first way,
focused
I've beaten this game 3 times. The first time through, I tried to be like perfect stealth agent, and it wasn't engaging with the game it wanted to be engaged with. Second time, I hit my marks right, and it worked much better. And those are the 2 times I played it for my review. And so I think it really wants you to hit your marks because it's a very different game if you don't.
a little bit missing the point of an interactive medium. And more than that, it's trying to yank an interactive medium in the direction of the benefits of a passive medium. The developers acknowledging that in the category of pacing and framing, games simply just aren't as good. It is very simple. A director and cinematographer control where the camera's pointed, they control everything in the view of the camera, and that power is everything.
Everybody wants to do the Raiders chase scene, and so I'm just going to call back to it forever, but I also get to watch the Raiders chase scene in the process.
Determines what is interactable in the scene, or how they'll look shot by shot on camera. This is how you get absolutely exquisite one perfect shot cinema.
A whole
Creatives
movie
who
of that.
Consider what looks good and readable and clean, what feels subconsciously good and obviously legible for an audience in the span of a single moment. How people and objects move through a frame, where the eye of the audience is likely to pick up and follow a subject through a frame. All of which a game simply cannot do without yanking interactivity away from you and just pretending to be a movie for a few minutes. This is to say nothing of games just designed in ways that they do this badly. Look at this shot from a...
Yeah, this is an essential start to all of it. Missed the start, can't stay for super long. Yeah, it's a super long video. You love this video? Thank you. The bookends of Physical Raven in the world were a good touch. Physical Raven will arrive again when I worry I'm picking too many fights again. And I hoped that in doing so, I would provide a when you're mean to me on the internet, this is who you're being mean to. And it does seem like a few people went, hell yeah, I will be mean to that guy. I will write 11 comments. But I really appreciate that. I wanted to take responsibility for my words, and I hope that came across. Video on this was much better than the Patrick Willems. Probably helps I actually play video games. I didn't know he made a video like this. I haven't watched Patrick Willems in a long time. I have thoughts on his work. I generally really like his work, but I would be interested what he has to say about all this. I know he appeared on a Something Rotten about the Metal Gear games, but I had kind of fallen off of Something Rotten by the time he was on.
Museum shootout in Uncharted 4. One of the best looking cinematic games ever made. The relevant subjects are the...
Yeah, this was important to me that I pick what we all consider one of the best looking games ever made for these comparisons, and a game that everybody says is very cinematic. I wanted to make sure I was picking from what people consider the best of the best or close to it.
Player, his ally, and the bad guys you were going to shoot. The player is encouraged, required to focus on the bad guys. Looking at the bad guys is actually the point of the moment. Can you see them?
Listen.
There they are.
Listen, I'm very tall. I can't, I'm just a little guy. But if I do go, are you sure you want to be mean to this?
Now look at how the subject and bad
But
guys
thank
are
you.
framed.
Everybody's been very sweet.
Shootout from John Wick 2, one of the best looking action movies ever made. The bad guys are not only clear, they are actually foregrounded, as the director would know that seeing the impact of bullets and how they intercept the hero's movement is the thrill and drama of the moment. In a video
so many
game,
good
this
falls.
shot would be a crime. It would appear in videos on Twitter complaining about the camera, about being unable to see the player character in the cramped space around the enemies.
Yep.
And because we
Yep.
don't have to control John, the movement and impact are always...
What am I saying yup to my own fucking essay? What am I doing? The John Wick section should be required material for game design. I mean, I like to think so. I really do. And not inconsiderably, because it's fun to watch clips from John Wick Chapter 2. So it's also a fun watch. But I like to think so. I'm excited for the John Wick game, but it is going to be John Wick seen from the perspective of a camera behind his back all the time, except for when you do finisher animations. And like, that's not going to be as cool looking, right? It's just not going to be. I bet it's going to be really, really good. But like, Sifu was great in a gorgeous looking game, and it was the same way, and it was trying to do the same thing.
We need utilizing the passive format to maximize how it feels.
John Wick 4 is an
Also means for how
unassailable masterpiece, an unbelievable masterpiece.
Missteps that games make with the process. A major issue.
There's the
with high
guys.
fidelity
Every
games is that
video.
it can be hard to tell what you're actually supposed to care about or interact with. And games have struggled for...
I got to get back to streaming conviction. Conviction is such an angry game that it was occasionally a bummer, but the gameplay is chef's kiss. These poor guys, every time. Have I played any Yakuza games? My friend, you are talking to the biggest Yakuza fan you know. I was there in 2006 on the PS2 when the original came out with the dub of like CW actors. And I have played every goddamn one since, except for Dead Souls, but that's because PS3 backward compatibility is garbage. Love the Yakuza games. One of the most fun movies you've ever watched. How good John Wick 4 is a masterpiece. I'm gonna go rewatch John Wick 4 after this. Isn't a stinker in the franchise. I actually really like Ballerina. If you haven't watched Ballerina, go for it. Turned into one of those is the funniest you've ever seen.
Generations to figure out how.
I know it was Roche Shore. Why was Roche in these?
All players to the right beat in a scene. So in this moment in The Last of Us, Joel and Ellie.
I think
enter
I'm cooking
a
here.
Destroyed hotel, and the player needs to find a way through. The design.
Oh, friend, I know ball. You're following an essayist who knows ball.
The design of the scene understands the things that a film would use to draw the player's eye.
I think this is
Light
one of the better
and
critical
movement.
sections in it.
Beautiful light cascades down from a destroyed ceiling, and Ellie approaches the spot while talking. So the natural instinct is to approach, inspect, and, this being an interactive medium, interact. But that is just some wreckage. You're really supposed to look in an unrelated dark corner and climb a ladder. The interesting highlight in the scene is
ridiculous,
passive
right?
and unrelated to the interactive. The interactive detail is literally shoved in a dark corner so as not to interrupt the cool visual. Worse still is when games don't even utilize light or movement, still devoted to capturing the tool of focused, eye-catching cinematography, but out of any good ideas to make that happen. You have seen the limp shrug of an answer over and over, wanting to
waded into this discourse for but a moment.
Yield to the cinematic restrictions, developers just pop in yellow paint. I'll keep using John Wick 2 as an example, partially because they're video gamey and partially because I'm having a really good time watching clips of John Wick 2 while writing this.
I rewatched that reload clip like 4 times. I was like so lost in the sauce. I was not working on the essay at all at that point. I was just hyped to be watching it. It was like, I'm just having so much fun. Ludonarrative dissonance. I dropped that in a discussion a few reactions back and was like, all right, I'm an essayist now. Let's go. Hornet's Nest. Nah, not as much as the rest of this.
Incredible fight scene in some dark catacombs, where the creators gave themselves the immense challenge of setting a series about flow, movement, and crisp visibility in a dark space. Their answers,
so good.
utilizing the tools available to them, are treating every bad guy like their own moving spotlight. The
It's
set
brilliant.
is so gorgeously theatrical as the lights bounce around and highlight silhouettes in corners, giving just enough time to cast light on an action before a dodge or impact. In one moment, John.
Let me tell you, in the middle of a sec, I'm really proud of this section. This is definitely the section I think I'm proudest of in the video. I will tell an unbelievably brief Dan Olsen story. So, the week I uploaded my first essay, the Rebirth essay, that week I was at PAX East as a panelist, and I had 6 subscribers on YouTube. And then I uploaded that video, and then I did my panel with, not my panel, the panel I was assisting on with friends, stepped out to go like talk to people, because I always hang out and talk to the audience afterwards. And while I'm doing that, I look down at my phone and I see the video is getting passed around and starting to explode immediately. And it like happened while I was in the panel and my phone was turned off, and then my phone's just like exploding with notifications. So Dan Olsen was at PAX East that year. And while I was there, one of our audience members, who I don't want to like name him because I just like don't like naming people who have not agreed to it on stream or are not other public figures or content creators. But there was someone else there who said that he was going to watch the video. I mentioned it. And then later that weekend, I saw Dan Olsen was at his booth and there was no line. And I was just like, I just became a video essayist. And my video was like doing kind of good. Maybe I go mention that. And then I went up to Dan's booth and he said hi. And I, unbelievably nervous, because he's like one of my icons, unbelievably nervous, I said that I introduced myself. I said that I had just uploaded my first ever video essay, and I told him the truth, which is that he is one of my icons in the space, and that I was just very grateful to the work that he's done because it's very, very inspiring to me, and I have finally uploaded my own essay. And he, really genuinely excited, was like, oh my God, that's so cool. How did it go? And I realize now, months later, that was my moment to go, well, this is this in the process. This is the video. This is my channel. I'm not asking you to share it. Just want to share my work with you. I'd be humbled if you watched it. Here is this stuff about my process. And him asking me that question in turn led to me absolutely blue screening and going, oh, well, it went pretty good. But people seem to like it. But it's hard. But it's hard to judge. And he, super understandably, very politely engaged, but didn't really know what to do with it. And now, months later, I'm kicking myself and like, the first week I became a video essayist, I could have shared my work in person with Dan Olson, and I fumbled it so badly. I hope Dan is at PAX East again next year. Both because I'll definitely be applying for a content creator badge there now, and so I'll have a little more authority to talking about my own work, but also because it's like I would love a take two. Oh, Raven, you got to fake it till you make it. I know. I was like this, and now what do? Message Dan on like social media and be like, by the way, here's a video. No, absolutely not. Way too weird. You would do the same if you met him or Abigail Thorne. Oh my God, if I met Abigail Thorne, I would lose it. Again, icons, heroes of mine. All right, I'm very proud of this section. I really, really am. But you mentioned Dan. I've never mentioned this on stream before, but because it's such a cringy story. But memories from the first week I started doing this. John sprints toward the foreground, silhouetted by lights coming from the background, and then sharply turns a corner into cover. This is a sensible choice for John and a quick exhale for the viewer, but it can only happen this way because we are not playing the fight, and we're not searching for cover. It is simply beyond any doubt in my mind that players would complain about the darkness, testers would demand a clearer environment, streamers would cheat the scene by cranking the brightness setting, and developers would patch in yellow paint over the cover to... Why do they always have those dots in yellow paint? They always have dots and slight scribbles, and I guess to try to make them look more believable. Make sure the player hits their marks. And to be fair, thanks for the great stay. See you around, Space Cowboy. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. And thank you so much for the kind words. Thank you so much. I'm going to keep doing it. Gonna keep doing it as long as I can. To them, why shouldn't they? John in the movie doesn't need our help to find cover here. The passive medium of film lets things be unclear, so drama and tension can come from the uncertainty of the frame, and the cover can come as a relief and a surprise. Even just John running toward the camera would be risky. Only very specific games do run towards the camera set pieces, and only in very limited moments because the lack of clarity would be awful. Games being interactive makes the state of this beautiful, thrilling shot there has to be impossible on a structural, mechanical level. But games want to have the energy of a moment like this when they cast their chips in on being, as people like to call them, cinematic. So to even come close to a fraction of this power, they need to scream at the player how they... I've never watched this show, but this meme was the only way to do it when I realized the line that I had written. I still can't believe that budget. Should hit their marks. When Zach Kreger's Resident Evil movie... Oh, I haven't watched the trailer. Trailer just came out for this today. I gotta watch the trailer after. Which I am impossibly excited for. Comes out. Do you think he'll need yellow paint to draw your attention to what's important in the scene? Kreger is a great director, a really funny guy, and a very legit Resident Evil fan. So it is totally possible. But if yellow paint is in there, this tool that developers need to use to try and capture the eye draw of film would... This edit here is better than I intended it to be. Film be a punchline. Okay. So what I did is I screenshotted
this. Can I go frame by frame? I cannot. I screenshotted this shot that I wanted to edit, tossed it into Clip Studio, edited the yellow paint over it, but happened to crossfade it in at just the frame I got it from. And as a result, get this actually really good looking, what appears to be a fade in over the footage. I'm like really proud of this edit, and it coming out this elegant was totally accidental.
Draw of film would in a film be a punchline. This
Total
also
accident.
The way conversations look in games. The 180-degree rule is a foundational rule of cinematography which assumes that in a conversation between two people, there is a metaphorical line between them, and the camera.
I hope this
can
was
go
educational.
anywhere
I don't know
it
how
wants
much
to,
people know
so
all
long
this.
as it stays on one side of that line. If this is broken, the viewer can find themselves subconsciously jumbled up in the structure of the scene and the actors. The cleanest way to shift where along the line the camera can move is to have the camera or an actor sweep across the line. This scene in Uncharted 4 is a beautiful execution of the 180-degree rule, but that's because we're in that safe space of cutscenes. Because the moment the movie game releases control back over to the player, suddenly this elegant...
Should do more videos this specifically. I think so too. Every time I go back to this section, it's the one I like the best in this video. I really think I did a pretty good job here.
Composition has to be thrown out the window in favor of the player just doing shit they need to do. It is the chaos element which no movie
and I think the edits are pretty strong. I'm quite proud of this
can
section.
ever take back. The attempt to look like a movie can only work when the game is not a game. And so conversations just always feel worse when the game is being a game. Left to the player's control, a game trying to be a movie suddenly looks like a badly shot movie. Made all the worse in The Last of Us because 90% of conversations happen with your character talking to kitchen cabinets while searching for duct tape.
I knew I should have turned the damn truck around.
It was
We live.
so
Barely.
easy to find footage of this.
Get out of here.
Before anyone asks,
Yeah. Last of Us is good. Story's good. Characters are good. Acting and music are excellent. They're good. I just don't really respect it.
I'm kind of whatever
But it's
about
good.
the camera in the new God of War games. The creative vision is that the entire game exists without any cuts. All transitions in battles, in cutscenes, and across time and space happen in a single virtual mocked-up camera motion. I am certain this took a lot of effort, but I still grapple with whether it literally matters at all. The idea of one cohesive, untouched journey is spiritually very cool, and it makes the focus of the game feel small, which I think is the idea. But also,
I hope that's the idea.
It's cosplaying movies in lieu of...
You hate the camera? You hate the camera? Well, do I make a decent case for why you hate it? Because I do kind of end up being more critical of the camera than I think I intended here.
Of being a movie for the sake of looking like a movie. Not really making a filmic choice because the game or story demands it, right? The motivating factor is that this is what a oneer would look like in a film, and wouldn't it be wild to have an 18-hour-long oneer? And not like the only way to tell this story about gods and monsters and somberly mourning a wife who is currently double jump air comboing in hell is in one
You get into yelling fights about it? Wow. Yeah, so this is the second time where I bring up in one of these Sony movie games that they look a certain way, not because this was the way to do their experience or tell the story. You had many different ways of doing that, and this kind of doesn't really have anything to do with it. So much as you did this because that's a thing a movie would do that would be wild to do here. Like, I haven't ever heard a really good, consistent argument for why they did this. I've just heard how hard it was to do it. And I definitely respect that. And like I say towards the end of the section, I just like that the choice is audacious. Their game has a look. That in itself is kind of worth it. But, you know, I don't know if... I don't think this is the only way to serve the story they're doing. I think a part of me just wonders if they thought it would be really cool. Thought it was cool for the first 2 hours and then you never noticed it. That's sort of where I landed on it. Rebirth does it. That's why people justify the forced walking.
I don't get the beef with loading screens. They let you take a breath. I know. And Rebirth does have loading screens when you are passing between places. Even. Unless I'm wrong. I might be wrong. It's too close and it feels like you're in a Bethesda cutscene. It is very close. Shot. Because any attempts I've seen to justify the effort get very vague very quickly. I think I'm just down on it because the shots aren't clean. Yeah. They come with I search my feelings and I believe that. Steps, which we had the power of the PS to immediately load environments and Ratchet and Clank A Rift in Time and we never used it again. I know. Only Astrobot uses the PS5 properly. For me, is enough to make me crack up at the whole endeavor. That communicates two things. One in-universe and one out. Out of universe, the developers know that slightly shaky camera is what a Wonder looks like, and they're just trying to replicate a thing they like in movies, regardless of whether it works for their world or not. And in-universe, what is implied when you do this is a physical cameraman in physical space restrained by the physical impacts of human movement. This cracks me up every time I see it. Style pioneered by modern war journalism and war movies. And this cameraman was thus hanging out with his camera around Kratos while Kratos chopped down a tree to burn his wife's body in a pyre. The pyre that would send her to Air Combo Jelly Cube hell. And the cameraman just decided to go full commitment. And Kratos and his son. Kratos turns to him. Realms. So I guess when I say like this, I sound like I don't like the choice very much, and I definitely mostly find it funny. But I do usually between chapters, which just so happen to be structured around location changes a lot of the time. Okay. But I do know that it does a push in on conversations when you go into them. It just can sometimes cut afterwards. But most conversations in Rebirth look a little terrible. The beautiful cutscenes look incredible, but a lot of the cutscenes look kind of bad. It doesn't help that the lighting is screwed. All the footage of people with lighting fix mods on PC answer so many of my questions about why I feel like Rebirth looks like a little bad sometimes. I do love God of War, and I'd rather a game make a strange and audacious choice, especially one this challenging, rather than make no interesting choices. The cut-in's annoying. There is just, for sure, as a film professor once told me, nothing more elegant than a cut. Little bit of Ainana. Time. It implies movement. But most of all, he said, a cut is a human experience. He encouraged us to think of cuts in cinema like blinking in real life. You always break up movement, image, time. The nature of the shakier one take implies a certain down-to-earthness that I assume was meant to display Kratos' change. I love that take. And honestly, I bet you're right. I would definitely back that one up. Or at the very least, that was probably what motivated it, and we can just have our feelings about whether it worked for us. But I really love that take. I bet you're right. You could cut or condense 70% of the dialogue. It would work better and have time to flesh out the story qualities that matter. I mean, Rebirth. Only way it could be is 60 hours long, apparently. That story's never been told ever before with 70% less dialogue. This is the only way you could do it. This is the only way you could do it, apparently. And ideally, you never notice it. The cut is inherently human. Clean, unless you are God of War, in which case it would, I suppose, get in the way of Kratos' personal cameraman. Games also cannot replicate cinematic pacing because the focus of most games is on their interactivity and kinetic experience. But I want to lay off developers for a little bit. Oh, let me tell you, Zenless music and me using it clearly properly, not flagging any copyright issues, means y'all are going to be hearing some Zenless beats in every essay from now on. They were so perfect for this. Because this one is on players. Most players, certainly. It's funny. Okay, good. Most are just really because it cracks me up. Bad at patience. Some games can get away with asking players to wait, feel a slow burn, let a scene unfold, but even then it takes enormous effort to make it clear that tension is being built and strong execution to keep players interested. In one stream, playing the Resident Evil 4 remake, Connor Dog makes it actually literally 2 minutes into the game before losing interest in the cutscenes.
I can see you suffering. You hate this.
Mousy, and 5 minutes before he starts asking.
When it's time to shine, do I get to play the game now?
At this pace, Connor could literally not make it to the opening title card of John Wick before losing interest. I don't want to talk over my own joke.
No, I'm listening.
Tragically,
I actually measured out like 2 minutes in and put it in the right spot in both of these cases.
for Connor, even The Raid Redemption, a movie with the jokey fan pitch of 1 minute of romance, 99 minutes of carnage, still actually does have more than 1 minute of story and would take more time than he was ready for.
Now the problem here is he's distractingly hot right now.
No, I'm listening.
Movies can linger because the cinematography,
Oh, this shot's so gorgeous. I love this shot.
pace, dialogue, and
Shaky
character
cam
work
sounds plausible, though if you use a symbolic technique all the time, it feels like it loses a lot of its meaning. It just becomes an aesthetic choice. Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's the danger. That's for sure. That's the danger, because it needs to materially be something. The Resident Evil games turning into third-person shooters bothers me. I know. I love Resi 2 Remake, which, you know, people have their feelings about. But I love Resi 2 Remake. It just, the first is still better. And like the original Resi 2 is still better, I mean. And that's because the tank controls and pre-rendered backgrounds were right for the experience. And the third-person shooting over the shoulder is right now only because that's just like good gameplay Resident Evil invented. And it wasn't meant to be applied everywhere. So I understand being bothered by it. I bet dollars to donuts that Veronica will be significantly improved for it, though. But that's because Veronica could use a lot of improvement.
be waiting for it to get where it's going. You might even be bored if the pacing is bad. But you aren't waiting for the movie to start. You just wish the movie was better or more appealing to your expectations of it.
Oh yeah, this bit again, this is a good section. I shouldn't be talking over some of the more crucial moments. But the note that you can wait for a game to start. You're never waiting for a movie to start. The movie is happening. You just might want it to be moving faster. But if you're watching cutscenes, you are waiting for the game to start. And gamers are not awesome at waiting for games to start.
If a player is sitting through cutscenes, the player is waiting for the game to start. Oftentimes, even playing the game but not doing anything interesting, a basic tutorial, a walk and talk, still feels like the gameplay has not engaged and you're still waiting for the game to start. Inaction, here defined as not being engaged in a core gameplay loop, can get games brutalized for being too slow or being boring on replays. And
my line read isn't great there. I think weirdly I put my emphasis in a way that it doesn't sound like inaction the one word. It sounds like in and action two words, and it kind of throws off the structure of the sentence a little bit. Twilight Princess comes to mind. Oh boy, does Twilight Princess come to mind. The POV shot can look really bad if you overuse them. Some cinematic choices you need to use sparingly and mindfully. Yep. No, I understand that. I mean, there's exceptions to every rule, of course. We must always consider this when we do the work of critique. But I would co-sign that.
There is reason for that feeling. This is an essay championing interactive experiences in this medium over passive ones. But it speaks to a lack of vision for what an interactive experience can be. I lament to friends that games offer potentially unlimited things for players to do, and the thing games have you do more than anything else is kill things.
This makes
when
me
you
so
see it that
sad.
way, it's actually kind of miserable. You could swim in deep.
Well, that's extremely kind of you. It's very kind. I just always looking to improve.
Deep oceans, solve mysteries, go to space, build things. And great, fantastic games do that, no question. But a game that is going to take over the entire industry this fall is a game in which you drive a car around Florida and kill people. It is obvious what the market wants. The largest share of the gaming market just wants to simulate shooting people. And so the not shooting people or not stabbing people bits are unfavored. But those bits are not.
This too deserves its own essay for sure. Become so annoying about remakes. I know. I mean I have a channel and an audience now because of opinions I have on remakes. They are crystallizing inside of me over time. Sid said, "Thank you, seriously."
Not the exclusive hallmarks of great films. Movie games want to look like films, but given their tools are most commonly just walk while people talk or cover shoot stealth murder. They engage.
This is an extremely brief pause. I had a quick section here about Gears of War almost pioneering the walk and talk. I think I'm right about that. And how much people absolutely hated it. But I just kind of felt like it was belaboring the point, and we all kind of got where we were going with it.
Age only wrote verbs for what can be done in a potentially
Wrote ROTE verbs, YouTube subtitles.
infinite possibility space. This is one of the triumphs of 007 First Light. Bond games, till this point, have generally imagined James Bond as a Doomslayer level mass murderer who travels the world, enters a building, draws a gun, and slaughters everyone inside. And this is not the fault of those games, but the structure of what
Nightfire.
most developers and players imagine a game to be.
This and
First
Nightfire.
Light is the first Bond game to examine what a Bond film actually does, how it moves, how it looks. Bond doesn't sprint, he saunters. He doesn't draw his weapon unless it's necessary.
I think I maybe should have clarified better.
Sent on a mission to
this section.
destabilize an international criminal operation via a game of poker and his boundless charisma. And splashes of violence in corners of
this
the
segment.
movie are only used to boil over the simmering tension, rather than be Bond's standard
Nightfire's so
mode of action.
good.
Hi, Editor Raven here. Sorry to pause the video for a second, but I was just going through this Casino Royale footage and like, do you remember how good Casino Royale is?
It's so
I just
good.
was watching this one shot right here with the little toss of the machete at the end and did a sharp intake of
this
breath
moment.
like this. Should we watch Casino
Oh, that
Royale
shot.
later? Let's watch Casino Royale later. And First Light,
I love that shot. That knocked me out. For walk and talk, for starting and stopping every time the characters
honors
decide
this
to talk.
beautifully.
I know.
You bluff your way past
I know.
the
I agree.
Charisma is his defining trait. And not
Nightfire's good, better than GoldenEye. That's a hot take, but I was not an N64 kid, so I'm not educated enough to speak on it. However, Nightfire is pretty fire. Are we going to watch it together? Let's book a movie night. Let's book a movie night. We got to watch Casino Royale. What matters is that the dialogue's worth listening to, and it almost never is. I agree. Ironic to think how, despite all the movie games now that affected the RE series to chase cinematography and cleanliness, it's still farther away from being a playable movie than PS1 era RE. 200%. Yes, absolutely co-sign that. Because they had good cinematography. They actually did literally have cinematography and framing. You liked it better than GoldenEye 2?
How much games never really think according to filmic pacing.
Oh my god, they were
You can now
perfect being
take
movie
all of
horror.
This and flip it around to video game movies to see it all come together. When the standard mode of great games is often rewarding players making choices independent of the narrative and feeling the kinetic satisfaction of good gameplay, what about any of that translates well to film? Unless you are going in a very abstract direction, film is a narrative medium, even in the realm of action movies, where narrative framing informs the dramatic thrill of the action. John Wick 4, yes, I am still using John Wick, sue me, is not a deep narrative, but what is the action without the motivation to kill the smarmy marquis dead? What is the brilliant staircase ascent without the dramatic arc of John and Kane's relationship? You can't skip a core
that
narrative
shot.
without making something much more impressionistic than most movies, certainly big budget ones, want to be. If that blood...
For that 45 seconds, I watched all 10 minutes of the stair scene, insisting to me for all 10 minutes it was important to the essay that I continued watching all of it, lying to myself about it, just needing to watch it. One of the best falls, if not the best fall in cinema history in that. Ugh.
Bloodborne movie ever gets off the ground. I'm sure it could look great, but the joys of Bloodborne collapse the
Yes,
moment
we
you
should.
apply them
We
to a
should.
passive medium. What is Bloodborne's narrative without the essential element of piecing together disparate clues and coming to opaque, existential, incomplete conclusion? Can you
Yeah, it's not an Eldritch horror story because there's squiggly monsters in it. It's an Eldritch horror story because we never are able to get a full and complete picture of it, and every new dimension we understand of the story is more horrifying.
think of a single good conversation in Bloodborne? a real conversation, not just someone talking poetically at your silent protagonist. And so, have you ever watched and enjoyed a movie which doesn't tell you the core plot and doesn't have any conversations? Maybe not zero, but probably not a lot, right? And immediately, you're changing the DNA of Bloodborne at its foundations if you change that. The fights may end up gorgeous to look at, but did you enjoy Bloodborne because you stared at the fights or because you fought them? Because you learned attack patterns, exploited openings, and spent hours grinding out specific builds and learning weapons? The more we look to what makes this masterpiece a masterpiece, the more we see how none of it could even begin to apply to a passive medium. As this both exposes why a video game movie can't truly succeed without changing the foundations, or a video game trying to evoke. So, here's the thing. If the Bloodborne movie ever comes out, no trouble imagining a Bloodborne movie could be done well, just don't think it will be. Happy to be wrong. Don't fail me, Jack. I know. Only love the Jacksepticeye. But it's interesting that it keeps being called like his movie, and he's like one producer, and I don't even think he's an executive producer on it. But he has never made a movie before, and this would have to be pretty big budget. So we'll see. If the movie comes out and it is super Bloodborne accurate and there are no conversations in it and it is never clear what the story is, I will have nothing but respect for it. But I also think a lot of people are going to have issues with the viewing experience of it. And the moment it has a cohesive narrative and good dialogue, then it will be much more traditionally designed and potentially much more successful as a movie. But it won't be Bloodborne, will it? Because if you see two people talking to each other in a way that is the least bit sensible, a part of you will immediately go, ooh, that's not really Bloodborne, is it? Could be good, though. I'm certainly going to watch it. I fucking love that game. Evoke movie can't exist without compromising the video game. It is here where you may be thinking of what you do consider movie games. Obviously, ones I've listed or taken to task throughout, but perhaps some of your own experience and how you feel they live up to or fall short of these elements that are wonderful about film but could never come through in games. It is possible you are thinking about the auteurs in gaming who hold creative control and wield it like a film director. It is possible you're thinking about Hideo Kojima. I'd like to talk about Hideo Kojima. The only correct edit. The only correct edit. Love the movie flow so much. Yeah, that's the thing. It can be done, and it can make a great movie, but it's a very specific, very abstract movie. Hideo Kojima wrote and designed the best Christmas game when his team at Konami released Snatcher. Snatcher is a graphic adventure game in which you use selectable verbs to navigate absolutely gorgeous pixel art environments while playing as Gillian Seed, a sort of cop who has to hunt down humanoid robots called Snatchers. If you think that sounds like Blade Runner, that is because its broad strokes are very, very much Blade Runner. Oh, it's the same team as the Death Stranding thing? Yeah, those visuals don't look great. Because I feel like visuals are the one thing I would expect it to succeed at, and I wouldn't begrudge that. Speaking of visuals, this game is fucking gorgeous. We're going to go back to our Snatcher playthrough from when I was not a video essayist and this channel didn't exist. But just on the side Twitch. We are going to check in with Snatcher like every Christmas until we're done with it. Runner is just one of its many inspirations, however. The entire operation from the top down was filmic. Snatcher in its development is curious about the way a scene moves, a film plot develops, the way villains monologue or small explosions of violence pop off. It speaks the language of film in considered ways. It is also set during Christmas. Yeah, Mario doesn't talk in those movies is... Yeah. In its
so nice
all-timer of an opening, the viewer is presented with as cinematic a montage as technology could possibly manage, giving context to the world, setting, and conflict. It has title cards, panning shots over the city, an utterly banger intro theme, and credits, genuine lengthy credits, exactly like a movie, not abridged to make room for players itchy to push buttons. Snatcher is
Crazy good
undeniably
voice cast, too.
Cinematic. In 2 years, it will be Snatcher's 40-year anniversary. And in that window of time, cinematic games have advanced nothing at fucking all. Hideo Kojima.
Snatcher still looks better than many games, and it's because style ages well.
Has famously and repeatedly said that just like the human body is 70% water, he is 70% film. He loves movies more than anyone walking this earth, save for Tom Cruise. I suspect Cruise also has him beat on intensity of popcorn consumption.
I love my popcorn.
I love this clip.
Movies, popcorn.
There is every reason to look at Kojima's oeuvre and come to
It's
the
so
conclusion that
intense.
he is the movie games man, given that he is the movie man of games. He has been referencing movies as long as he has had the creative control to do so, from his characters to his covers to his plotline. He invents characters who exist to talk about movies. He directs the hell out of a cutscene. And
Yeah.
he hired movie composer Harry Gregson Williams to score those cutscenes. And everyone falls all over themselves to mention, those cutscenes are often long. Did you know Metal Gear Solid 4's final cutscene is, and this is true, 700,000 hours long? Did you know Death Stranding's final cutscene is 1 billion hours long? Did you
is.
know that repeating fun facts isn't the same as knowing things?
I was gonna have one note there where I wrote on screen, "This is not me starting beef with Did You Know Gaming," but I just didn't even want to entertain the thought this deep into the video. Strong creative vision, something nothing can overcome the works of a true pervert. That's ultimately it.
There is no denying that Hideo Kojima loves movies, loves movie makers, and has dreamed of making movies himself. It is extremely true that, while his writing leaves something to be desired, his direction understands filmic language,
8-year-long
scene
cutscene.
composition,
It's
and
true.
directing actors like extremely few other creatives in gaming. Look at the cutscene with the DARPA chief back in Metal Gear Solid 1, back when Naughty Dog cutscenes looked like this. Kojima and his team were making cutscenes that mostly considered the 180-degree rule, actors crossovers.
Absurd.
Hi, Editor Raven again.
This
I just
shot's
needed
so
to talk
cool.
a little film work here in a little bit more detail because this scene is knocking me out as I rewatch it. Something that could take way longer than this essay has time for to get into is that not only do you want to do crossovers, either in movement or in camera work to maintain a 180 degree. In general, in film and in theater, you want movements to be motivated. You want someone to cross over to indicate that an exchange of power is happening in the conversation somehow.
Yeah, so this applies to film as well as theater. If you have two characters sitting at a bench and they're talking, and one gets up and walks across the path, you want that to be accompanied by something changing in the way they're talking or the power in the scene between them. You don't want them to just move because people are getting bored. And if you abide by this and people aren't moving enough, that's usually a sign that your dialogue is not having enough developments and exchanges. If people are moving randomly, then it means literally nothing. If people aren't moving enough, then that probably means your dialogue isn't moving and shifting enough. Recently played through Metal Gear games, and I have been saying since this channel didn't exist that it was all building to me playing all the Metal Gear games. And I realize now that I'm just being a coward and I'm not ready for it. Did not get a notification from YouTube till this for now. Notifications are screwed. They really, really are. However, thank you for being here. We are close to the end. So, back in 1998 on the PS1, and storyboarding professor lent you his personal notebook on camera, stuff like this, and you lost it. No! Because you still love learning shit like this. It's very interesting stuff. And I definitely have a lot more work in me talking about it. MGS is a stellar example of this.
in this killer shot where we actually get two crossovers from the DARPA chief. One from him walking across the 180-degree line, and then another as the camera swivels back again across the line in the opposite direction. It rules.
It rules.
And this sudden exchange between the two players is happening in the moment building to the climax of the scene where the DARPA chief admits to making a Metal Gear. So like that's a beautifully motivated moment because he's about to reveal potentially the darkest secret of this individual scene. And so we're getting him all of a sudden moving. We're getting multiple passes really quickly about the camera. There is uncertainty and unsteadiness in the scene. And this was happening on the fucking PlayStation 1 in 1998. What a game. Like actually great cinematography and direction. You're not going to notice it unless you're looking for it, but it's really good film work. Man, MGS1 is good. Using varied camera angles to make a conversation visually interesting, speeding up cuts to emphasize rising pace and tension, and even, and this is just so awesome, simulating a fisheye lens for a blink and you'll miss it shot as the DARPA chief dies. In 1998, Metal Gear Solid was simulating the use of a second type of lens. That's one more than every PlayStation exclusive has ever used. So yes, the movie man is absolutely a cutscene guy, informed and influenced by the movies. And he certainly makes some really great cutscenes. But I would like to add my voice to the chorus of people saying Hideo Kojima directs some video game
And there's in the background, Gaussian blurred, me pushing those boys.
Video games. And I hope this video can be the ammunition this chorus requires to strike down the non-believers.
I was talking very Warhammer even before I started reading Warhammer, huh?
Stranding is not a walking simulator in the way that its detractors would have you use the term, but it is a walking simulator insofar as it is interested in simulating every element of a character doing some very challenging walking. In this divide, we reveal the crux of the Hideo Kojima movie game accusation. If Death Stranding is a walking simulator derogatory, it is a game in which you stroll from cutscene to cutscene for hours on end, as thin a game as has ever been, perfect for the 70% movie body man. If Death Stranding is a walking simulator complementary, then it is so complex an interactive experience that it's impossible to capture its essence in anything but a video game. No movie makes you feel the weight of walking through a river while balancing packages on your back.
I love Death Stranding a lot.
No movie could replicate you being made to curl and hold your fingers around the triggers, to live out the hero holding tight to fragile gear as he travels. No TV show asks the viewer to consider their center of gravity while gathering gear for an expedition. Only in an interactive medium is Death Stranding's true messaging even possible. This is a game that insists it is worth doing good for others without ever expecting to be thanked for it.
Very important.
To do good for others because goodness is its own reward in an increasingly bleak world. And in a movie or TV show, a character can certainly monologue that at you. But in Death Stranding, the structure of the game is you doing good deeds for others.
It's not the story even that is the most profound thing that gets the message across in Death Stranding. It is the game design. This is just acknowledged, especially the multiplayer features. This is not a hot or original take. So many people have noted before that it is the game design, the multiplayer game design especially, that is communicating this message in Death Stranding.
Laying out structures that help other players you will never meet, and being helped by the structures those anonymous players have left behind. You feel its message through the language of the game's design dozens of hours before its protagonist ever gets there himself. When The Last of Us Part 2 wants you to consider that violence is a cycle, it does so by having characters speak this at you in cutscenes before the game design gives you no choice but to kill people. Your interactive options are so limited in a story about how important it is to see violence and choose mercy, that when characters in your grasp ask for mercy, you have literally no way of choosing mercy and can only do violence. This is to say nothing.
I want to bring up a tremendous counterpoint to that appeared in the comments. Really want to make sure I highlight this. That referred to the ending of The Last of Us Part 1, where you are doing something that many players are likely
to oppose. Lord knows I did. And there is such an uncomfortability from the fact that you must do it to progress, even though you disagree with it and how unique that is. And I really want to spotlight that because I think that is a tremendous point. I would totally back that. And I think there is much to explore in the worth of that here. That I really, really do. And I do, as I think I replied to them, I actually really love the ending of The Last of Us Part 1, and it motivated me kind of being bummed that they were making a sequel, especially a sequel focused on the same characters. If it was a sequel and it was an anthology and we were just following other people completely, I'd feel a little better about it. But I think that was a terrific counterpoint. I really, really stand by it. I think that was very apt.
Nothing of the fact that Kojima's games are deeply playable, mechanically open games. If you want to take an enemy down from stealth in The Last of Us, you sneak up from behind them and press which of the takedown buttons you wish to hit. If you have a bow, you can shoot them with a bow. If you want to take down an enemy from stealth in Metal Gear Solid 5, you can shoot them with your silenced weapons, you can approach them from stealth, grab them, at which point you can interrogate them or dispatch them.
I love the bait in this
takedown
section.
buttons, lethally or non-lethally. You can capture and hurl a poisonous creature at them, you can drop a beehive on them, or hide in a cardboard box and sneak by them. You can interact with the game's
All this
foundational
bait.
camo system to blend in with the environment and move right under their nose. Oh, sorry, I lied. I was actually describing the mechanics of Metal Gear Solid 3 back on the PlayStation 2.
Mousetrap
I'm sure the
sprung.
gaming industry just needs another 22 years to catch up to it. The simple
Basically, what it's a very, very different type of game, but Hitman is the game that outdoes that. But it does so with pretty radically different goals. An option in Nier where a character asks you to kill them or erase their memory, and you can just walk away. Yeah. Whoa. Oh. So much behind the interactive moment there. Before Last of Us 2 came out, you said it should be an anthology. I really strongly believe it should have been an anthology. There's certainly criticism out there for Kojima. I get it. I do too. But for someone this old in the industry, he's still got his heart in the games he's making. Can't say that about a lot of people. 100%. 100%. And let me say this. I think the thing that makes me so impressed by him even now is not like any of the individual games I like. It is the fact that in 2015, he was dropped from Konami. And then within 4 years, he founded a new studio, made an entirely new intellectual property, hired people, got the real estate, pulled people together, got his studio together, pulled in all the contacts he possibly had, and then made a new game in a brand new IP. And that game, Death Stranding, was objectively unlike any other game at its scale before. And pulling that off in 4 years, going from nothing to studio and all of that in 4 years, I'm going to tell you, that is far more impressive to me than managing to make a sequel to Spider-Man in 6 years for $300 million. And I like Spider-Man too, but it's still, that makes me very, very impressed. It really does. Now we can talk about the fact that I liked Death Stranding 1 more than 2.
simple reality is that when we position Kojima Productions alongside the Ghost of Last of Us Uncharted of Wars of the World, when we say that Hideo Kojima just wants to make movies, we're doing a disservice to a creator in a studio having a deeply playful time of it with the medium, making works filled with curious, funny, interesting elements that can only execute properly in an interactive medium, and are enriched by a wide possibility space. Because yes, Kojima was involved in the production of multiple games with limited possibility spaces, with focused scopes structured around cutscenes and conversations. But those games were Snatcher and Policenauts. And if Hideo Kojima ever wants to make Metal Gear, Blade Runner, and Astronaut Detective games again, though he will certainly become the cutscene guy people claim he is, I will take them happily.
Damn, I mean, listen, stuff, just because I say it doesn't automatically mean it's right. I think Death Stranding 2 is very good, and like Death Stranding 1, I bet it will age really well in my mind, because I completely stand behind what it's saying. But But it was just a lot easier, and I liked the friction in Death Stranding 1. And there's more combat in 2, like a lot more combat, and I'm just like not as interested in that. It's still a very unique, very interesting game with a really big heart, and that I will back 10 times out of 10. It's very worth playing, and there's some great performances in it. Wish more games had inaction as a choice and not even an explicit one. Yes. Fully. Yes. Yes, for sure. Totally agree. Up there with Tim Schafer managing to get Psychonauts 2 released after all of that. Dude, I have to watch the Double Fine documentary. I still haven't after all this time, and I am aware that everybody has recommended it as insight into how impossible a process like that is. Gaming can be a challenging art form to discuss because so I didn't mean to use this take because I had the camera I was on streaming to my phone, so I had my monitor here, but this read ended up being the best line read I had. Sometimes, very honestly, games let you down. Sometimes you want them to be something and they aren't or never could be. And then I got rid of my monitor here. Left only with the ache over whether it is you or the game's fault for failing to meet the game halfway. Sometimes a game is advertised as something it's not. Rarely the fault of the developers, and often the fault of a marketing department out of touch with what the developers are making. But I find that when people disagree on a game, they usually ignore the interactive nature of the medium and assume everyone had an even, equal... Didn't notice until I said something? That's why you come for the behind-the-scenes talk. Experience. Sometimes you just play a game wrong, or you play it too fast, or you take too long, or play it poorly and miss out on the intended experience. How much younger gaming is than books and movies? Yeah, it's crazy, right? It's effectively like a 50-year long existence, maybe 60. Yeah, we're already in the company buys everything out era. I know. And movies are in that too, but it took them longer to get there. This is the pitfall of the possibility space. The wider open it is, the likelier the chance is that somebody is going to tumble in, hit some spikes, and give the game a 3 out of 10. But I say that it is also one of the most beautiful things about the medium. It's one of the things that these movie games miss about the medium. If the act of playing the game is not something relevant to the core strengths of the game itself, what you are doing is avoiding this potential hazard. You are scared of 3 different players having 3 different experiences. But what other art form lets them? We can all go look at the Mona Lisa and take different emotions away from it, and I think that's beautiful. You can go see an impressionistic film and come away from this impressionistic film with different, wildly varying interpretations of it. Oh, let me tell you this. If there is any reason why you might see Physical Raven again in other videos, it is because this was leagues easier to assemble. This was so easy. I get why longtime video essayists eventually move towards doing like a lot of on-camera work. Oh my good God, this was easier. I know, this song's incredible. The only art form that's never existed bereft of capitalism being the dominant economic system. Yeah, for sure. Love it. But when this happens, so often, these people aren't making the Mona Lisa or Mulholland Drive, are they? They are making cover, crouch, shoot, reload games. They're making games with soundtracks that sound like they were done by Hans Zimmer post-Inception, and they have unbelievably good graphics and cutscenes that obey the 180-degree rule. If they were all making the Mona Lisa, I'd be fine with that. These are good, well-made games, but our industry needs to stop being ashamed of itself. These aren't the reason why, and these aren't the chief expression of why, but they are a way for the industry to shield itself against showing its heart. Many good games are afraid of showing their heart, but masterpieces aren't. When you feel like you need to justify your affection for this art form, what you are doing is you are justifying how worthwhile this art form truly is. Don't sell yourself short, but also don't sell games short either. The things that are beautiful about them are things that nothing else can do. And like I say, it is fine for a game to be a good consumer product, but let's start encouraging games and ourselves and our developers and each other to be a little bit more incisive, to go that extra 20% into the domains that only games could ever go. I'll still be picking up Wolverine, but I don't know how long I'll be thinking about it once it's done. Whew. Thank you for watching my 4th video essay. How are you doing? How have you been doing since the last one? Thank you all so much for watching.
Thank you,
all my
patrons.
essays so far.
This
kind
is a
of
patron
really
selection.
love this.
It was my
Really
idea.
does feel
Patrons
like
did
I
not
found
make
my
the
spot.
idea, but they
I
did
can
pick
only
it.
do it because you're here. If you feel like supporting me, please consider joining the Patreon. I'll
Please
see
do
if I can get
consider
the link to
supporting.
queue up right here where my hand is. It's
I
a
did it.
really, really, really wonderful community in that their Discord.
Yes.
We do a few
Beautiful.
game nights.
Truly beautiful.
We do a community exclusive stream where I can help you lose everything you've ever owned in Marathon. And
Yeah, I promise, patrons, we are definitely doing the Helldivers night I talked about. I just literally have not had a night open to do it. The moment I am able, I am yours. You! Great video. Thank you
get early
so
access to all of
much.
my video essays plus scripts.
Thank
and
you, thank you,
MP3
thank you.
only formats, as well as the ability to vote on the subject of my next video, like this one. Thanks for voting for this one, patrons.
Thanks,
Thank you
guys.
for all your support as always.
Thank you.
Please like, share, genuinely.
Please,
share. It's
yeah.
really big. Everybody's sharing.
Yeah.
It's been huge. It's been mega. And I'll see you in the next video.
I've mentioned this before, but I think it's always worth saying, and I know other YouTubers in chat could speak to this. And this is also to anyone watching the VOD. You cannot imagine how valuable it is to all of us YouTubers to share our videos. And for anybody who doesn't know, I've said this before, but when you share the video, it is not just that it's helpful because you're getting it out to like people who follow you. It is also telling YouTube's algorithm this video is of quality and you are safe to put this on more people's timelines. So it is not only benefiting us because of the people that you get to put it in front of, it's also sending, the reason why we ask you to share so often is because it is telling YouTube you are safe to do this. Thank you so much for following. Thank you, thank you, thank you. It is telling YouTube you are clear to show this to more people because YouTube's algorithm is effectively always trying to determine how to mathematically say what quality is. And that is just one of the absolute biggest ways. So genuinely sharing is such a big deal. And any chance you get, I do really seriously appreciate it. But please consider joining the Patreon. I love my co-pilots. Y'all are genuinely beautiful people and something truly beautiful. I believe this strongly. Something truly beautiful is being made here. I was told that it is a little bit of a meme to say, I'm so proud of our community, but I really am. I just want to go down. Everybody's being so sweet. Everybody's being so sweet. On camera is so simple to work with. You don't need a shot list beyond reading lines. I know. Great video. Thank you. Well done. I hope so. I hope it's worth your time. I hope it's worth your support. When you see someone say there's no good videos on YouTube anymore, you'll point them in my direction. Right in the heart. Thank you. Truly. I'm doing my best. And it is all, God willing, rest of the year we're just talking about shit I like. I'm done picking fights. I don't care if it means the videos do worse. Because I can tell you, if it wouldn't deeply compromise me, I would take you to my YouTube studio page and show you this. Games are losing their soul to cinema. This was not the pick, but this was YouTube's pick. This was the one overwhelmingly that won, and it was the hardest edge of all the titles. Believe you me, I know when I just do nice things, it's not going to reach as much of an audience, but it'll be a lot better for my spirit. So we're just doing things I love for the rest of the year. Next 2 videos are no question. Next video is very political, but it is going to be a much smaller project because this got a little bit out of control. A feature-length video in 1 month really brutalized me. So I warned you at the end of the last video that the next one was going to be big and it was going to be kind of confrontational. And here we are. The next one is going to be much smaller to restore my sanity a little bit.
And it is going to be very political, but it's talking about a game that I love very, very, very dearly. So if you would like to know what that is, if you would like to vote on the topics that come after that, it looks like we have a pretty clear winner for our September video after the next one, but we'll see. Please consider joining the Patreon, but at the very least, subscribing, following, liking, all that means a universe of difference. I will close this out on our closing gag. The cops have come to stop us. The cops have come for my Last of Us crimes.
何様のつもりだ。また車泥棒か？違う。潜入任務だ。
This is no Vice City.
ここは都会じゃねえんだからよ。
Love this game. Love this friggin' game. All right, everybody. Well, thank you so much for being here. This was a really long one. It was a lot of time out of your day, and it does mean the world to me. So thank you. I'm very grateful to all of you. I love doing this, even when it's hot takes time. I am going to do myself a solid and absolve myself of continuing to participate in the discussion on this one. I think I have. This is, as I always advertise, the React stream is the last moment I will be present with the discussion. And now it's time for me to move on to other stuff. I am not saying this to call anyone out specifically. Believe me, I am not trying to start beef with anyone, but I am just not interested in continuing to pick fights over one particular thing forever. Even if I do know it would probably blow the channel up a bit more. But there's so many things to talk about, or so many angles to talk about a particular game from, even. Because breaking down, and Cowboys is a brilliant example of this, breaking down one particular game in one set of games from a bunch of different angles is creatively extremely, extremely valid. And very, very, very different than some people who just make a ton of comment, picking a ton of fights. You know what I'm saying? But that is why I always take this moment to analyze, talk, be open, field your questions, field your comments, but then ultimately close it out. That is kind of the point of these. So thank you all for being here. This was a really, really, really long one. It was a lot of effort. This video really, really, really kicked my ass. So I gotta take it a little easier on myself from here. Thank you for your time. I hope you have a great day. I hope you have a great evening. More streams to come. If you are going to Otakon, I will be there next week. I'm going to be there throughout the weekend. Going to be doing the Ultimate Game panel, Himbos and Husbandos. It is going to be a sincerely good time. It has been a blast, but it is time for me to go. I have been your Raven. Bye, guys.